Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. After the main character dies inside of his previous life, he wakes up inside of DC. Inside of DC, he has the ability to summon SCP. What is he gonna do?
Steady eyes, stood at the front, his badge read Liaison Marsh. A voice sounded through the shuttle's internal speakers. "This is Watchtower Control. You have attached without prior scheduling. Confirm identity and intent." Marsh replied calmly. "This is SCP Foundation High Clearance Liaison Team, ID Delta Lambda. We received a 173 priority failsafe signal from this location. We are here to assist with recontainment." There was a short pause. Then Jaeon's voice came. "We can confirm an SCP object in one of our cargo bays. It fits 173's description. You will be allowed entry as guests. This station remains under Justice League authority." "Understood," Marsh said. "We are here to help you avoid casualties, nothing more." The outer door cycled. The ramp extended into the Watchtower's docking corridor. Marsh stepped out first. He saw Batman waiting at the end of the corridor, cape still, stance firm. Behind Batman stood 2 League technicians and one of the auxiliary heroes on rotation, a lower-ranked lantern on station duty. Jaeon's presence settled over the area as well, unseen but obvious. Marsh approached, hands where everyone could see them. "Batman," he said, "thank you for letting us in." Batman looked at the emblem on his chest. "Another liaison." "We are specific to 173 events," Marsh said. "We came because our own systems pinged a breach at coordinates that pointed here. We did not put 173 in orbit. Whoever did, we share that problem now." One of the armored 173 team members spoke up. His voice came through a filter. "Sir, we need confirmation the subject has not been approached by unbriefed personnel. Did anyone open that bay?" "No," Batman said. "We locked it the moment we saw it. Cameras show it alone. No one inside." "Camera feed is not eyesight," the armored man said. "We still treat it as unobserved when we go in." Batman moved toward the central corridor. "Explain your procedure on the way." They walked. Marsh kept his pace even. 173 only moves when no one sees it. Physical sight with eyes. It can move extremely fast. It prefers to break the neck at the base of the skull. We have drilled blink protocols for years. We assign observers in shifts. No one turns away without someone else already staring. No one blinks without a partner calling it. Batman absorbed this, face hidden behind the cowl. "How many teams have you lost to it?" Marsh did not sugarcoat it. "Too many. We are better now, not perfect. Better." "We will not feed it," Batman said. "Good," Marsh answered. They reached the central hub. Jaeon waited by the main console. His eyes flicked to the Foundation team, then back to Batman. "The object has not moved," Jaeon said. "Image remains constant." The screen still showed SCP-173 in the same corner of the bay. Marsh looked at the image and felt his stomach tighten despite years of training. "Then, we need to get our container around it and get it off your station." One of the armored men stepped forward. "We brought a portable collar cage. Once we drop it over the subject, we can move it without direct observation. Until then, we keep our eyes on it." Batman nodded once. "You are not going in alone." Marsh expected that. "We would prefer League assistance. More observers lowers blink risk." "Agreed," Batman said. He turned slightly. Jaeon." Jaeon moved away from the console. "I can maintain awareness without blinking." Marsh hesitated. "Your physiology is different. The subject's property depends on line of sight, not human biology in particular. You are acceptable." Batman tapped his comm. "Clark." The reply came half a second later. "I am here." "We have a 173 in Cargo Bay C7, Batman said. "Foundation recontainment team aboard. We will move it off the station. We need one more set of eyes who can stare through anything." I am on my way, Superman said. Down on Earth, I watched the watchtower markers update. Foundation shuttle attached. Internal paths for Batman, Jayon, and Marsh's team heading towards C7. A separate icon rose from Metropolis, Superman's route back to orbit. I rested my chin on one hand and felt a small thread of tension. 173 could kill fast. I did not want any of the main heroes taken out yet. This was a test, not a cull. Still, I did not move to help. This was their field now. Caldwell noticed the incoming shuttle on her own monitoring screen. She frowned. They went straight up, she muttered. No request through us first. One of the operators answered carefully. The automated 173 failsafe triggered at orbital coordinates. Protocol gives recontainment team some freedom, Director. They reported in transit during the Metropolis cleanup. Caldwell's eyes stayed on the data. They better not break anything up there. I smiled faintly at that and returned my focus fully to the watchtower feed. Cargo Bay C7 waited behind a sealed door. The sign beside it was simple. No hazard markings yet, just a standard label. Superman arrived as they prepped. He walked down the corridor, cape moving slightly, and stopped beside Batman and Marsh. He looked at the liaison once. You are handling this. We have done it before, Marsh said. His voice stayed professional. We prefer underground concrete. This is new. Superman nodded. We keep the floor under its stable. That is my part. Jayon spoke. The camera will cut when we override the door. That is fine, one of the armored 173 team members said. Eyes only. The team arranged themselves in a pattern they knew by heart. 3 armored men at the front, arranged in an arc, eyes fixed on the door panel. Batman took a position just behind them, angled so he could see into the room past their shoulders. Superman stood on the other side, line of sight matched. Jayon positioned slightly back, ready to phase through or intervene. The collar cage sat on a grav sled beside them. It looked like a simple steel frame with bars. Anyone who knew the Foundation's engineering would see the heavier systems built into its joints, designed to block line of sight and dampen movement once it dropped. Marsh gave the reminder. Once that door opens, no one looks away unless someone calls replacement. Call out when you blink, short blinks only, no turning, no walking backward without a guide. Batman's voice was calm. Open it. Jayon touched the panel. The door slid aside. The statue stood where the camera had shown it. Same posture, same stains, same fixed tilt of the painted head. The air in the bay felt still. Everyone stared. The armored men stepped forward slowly, keeping their eyes on it. One spoke. Subject 173 in corner, approximate mass consistent, no immediate movement. Batman's mind mapped the space. Distance from door to statue, angle from ceiling bulkhead, positions for feet that would not tangle, ways to get the cage over it without blocking anyone's view. Superman felt an urge to speed up. He stayed in control. Fast reactions did not help if you skipped steps. Marsh spoke quietly. Team 1 approach. Team 2 eyes, Batman, Superman hold flanks, Jayon keep contact. They moved. 2 armored men pulled the cage sled forward, one hand pulling, one hand always ready to grab. Their helmets stayed locked on 173. One of them called, blinking right. The other answered instantly, watching. The first blinked once, then opened again. Back on. Batman watched 173's face. The crude paint stayed still. The concrete did not flex. Nothing moved. He refused to trust that. They reached the correct distance. The sled stopped. On my mark, Marsh said. We lift, swing, drop all in one motion. No hesitation. They counted quietly. 3, 2, 1. The 2 armored men grabbed the cage frame and heaved. Superman stepped in with one hand on a corner, taking most of the weight without blocking view. For a second, The cage rose between them and 173. The bars were open enough that they could still see the statue through the gaps. They moved forward and lowered the frame over it. It landed around 173 with a solid clang. The statue stood in the center of the cage, unchanged. "Field on," one of the men said. He hit a switch on the side bar. The bars darkened slightly as an active layer engaged. Not a full visual wall, but enough distortion that looking directly through it made the eyes ache. "Do we still count that as observation?" Superman asked. "For a moment longer," Marsh said. "Then we rely on protocol." He moved to the back of the cage and extended a shield panel over one side. It snapped into place, blocking part of the view. They repeated the process on the other sides, one at a time, always keeping at least 2 lines of sight open. The final plate slid over the top. The cage became a portable box. Small slits remained, enough to satisfy the concept of observation during movement, but not enough for easy eye contact. The armored men let themselves breathe one shade easier. "Subject secure," one said. "Ready for transport." Batman did not relax fully. What happens if the lid fails mid-move? "Then we hope no one blinks," Marsh said. His tone was flat. That was not a joke. Superman stepped behind the cage. "I can move it faster than your sled. You guide, I carry. We get this back into your ship and away from this station." Marsh considered it. "As long as someone maintains sight through the slits, speed is not our enemy here." "Fine." Batman spoke. "You do not take it anywhere near any primary systems. You push it straight to the docking ring and keep it outside living and working areas." "Agreed," Marsh said. They began to move. The team formed around the box, eyes fixed on the narrow slits. Superman lifted from underneath, hands bracing the lower frame. He could have flown it easily, but he kept to a walk. Sudden shifts could break attention. They left the bay and entered the corridor. The path to the docking ring was not long. It felt longer. Each step echoed in the metal hall. Each breath was audible over the comms. Observers called breath and blink rhythm in low voices. Blinking left. Watching. Back on. Jaeon kept mental track of everyone's focus. He did not feel 173's mind. There was no ordinary consciousness there, only a cold, constant attention in reverse. He did not like that sensation. Batman walked near the front, cowl lenses on the slit he could see through. He did not blink. He did not trust any movement. Superman felt the weight of the cage through his arms. It was not heavy for him. The strain came from holding himself to their pace. They reached the docking corridor. The shuttle waited, ramp down, interior lights on. Marsh exhaled once, almost done. They moved the cage up the ramp and into the prepared slot in the shuttle bay. Tracks on the floor locked with the cage's base, clamping it into place. The armored men kept their eyes on slits until the internal shutters engaged. There was a deep hum. Shield plates slid into place inside the cage itself, sealing all openings. "Subject fully contained," one of them said. His shoulders dropped slightly. "No visual access in or out." Marsh turned to Batman and Superman. "We will keep it under our protocols. It will not step on your deck again." Batman looked at him. "You still do not know who put it here." "No," Marsh said. "We know it was not us. That narrows it down less than you would like." Superman's jaw set. "We already heard about a third party pulling SCPs into our world. 343 told us." Marsh looked uneasy at that mention. "If 343 is talking to you, then yes, you will hear more." Batman folded his arms. "We will expect your report on this. Full, edited if you must, but not empty." "You will have it," Marsh said. "We do not want this gap any more than you do." They stepped back. The shuttle ramp closed with a heavy seal. Jaeon's voice came over the internal speakers. "Docking clamps clearing. You are free to depart when ready, Foundation vessel." "Copy," the pilot replied. The shuttle detached from the ring and drifted out into space before its drive engaged. It turned and moved away from the watchtower, a small dark shape against the stars. In the operations hub, Jaeon watched it go with quiet focus. Object 173 no longer aboard, he said. Station secure. Batman stood with his hands on the back of a chair, head bowed slightly. He looked tired. The cowl hid most of it, but his shoulders showed the strain. Superman glanced at him. You were right to lock it down fast. I read their files for a reason, Batman said. Diana's voice came over the channel from distant Themyscira. I saw the log. That statue is gone now. Yes, Superman said. Foundation took it back. Good, she answered. I prefer my threats moving where I can see them, not when I blink. Batman looked at the main screen. We need an internal audit. If something can appear in our cargo bays without any cycle log, then we are open. Jaeon nodded slowly. I will go over all teleportation and dimensional readings from the last 24 hours. Superman's eyes moved from the stars to the earth. And somewhere, whoever dropped it, there is watching and taking notes. On Earth, in the Gotham base, I smiled. He was right. I sat back in my chair and let the watchtower feed drop to a smaller window. The main screens shifted back to global monitoring, containment status reports, routine alerts. Caldwell checked her own console again. She had received a brief summary ping from Marsh's team. 173 recontained. Joint operation with Justice League. No casualties. Full report to follow. She nodded to herself and walked away to yell at another department about internal review procedures. I watched her, then looked back at the orbiting station. They had moved the statue without losing anyone important. They had listened to the Foundation. The Foundation had listened back. The link held. Good. I rested my hands calmly on the armrests. My chest felt light again. The next move could be bolder. Chapter 21. Iron on Sacred Stone. Apex sat in the same chair in the Gotham Foundation command room, one leg crossed over the other, hand resting lightly against his cheek. The room smelled faintly of metal, cables, and stale coffee. Screens showed touchpoints across the world. One window held the watchtower, small icons marking League members drifting in and out. Another showed Metropolis, calm again after the last operation. A third feed, when he had asked to be routed for potential mythological cross-reference, showed a satellite view of a certain part of the Aegean. Themyscira's general region, mapped only as blurred water in most systems. The Foundation had rough coordinates. The League had better ones. Apex had both. He watched the blue expanse on the screen and smiled. They have had time to breathe, he said quietly. An operator nearby glanced back, then turned away again quickly, assuming he was talking about the latest containment reports. Apex leaned back and reached inward, letting the familiar menu settle into place in his mind. Summon protocol, active. Select SCP artifact. SCP-914, the Clockworks. A machine that changed things put into it. Simple rules, unpredictable outcomes at the edges, contained in Foundation walls for years. Now it would sit on Amazon's stone. He accepted the choice. At the same time, he opened another branch. Summon protocol, active. Foundation unit, diplomatic containment team, high clearance. He targeted a ready cell with diplomatic and containment training, not a heavy assault force. Their shuttle would appear just within the Myceran barrier, already in motion, instruments screaming about an anomaly they did not understand. He smiled again, feeling a small flicker of amusement in his chest. Then he let go. The world shifted far away. Themyscira lay under a clear sky. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the training fields and stone halls. The sea around the island moved in steady waves. The wind carried the sounds of practice, steel clashing, shouts, breaths, boots on sand. On the central training ground, Diana moved through a series of drills with a spear, her body steady and controlled. She wore a lighter version of her battle armor, braces fixed, hair tied back. Her face was focused, eyes locked on a straw figure marked with painted lines. She stepped forward and drove the spear through the dummy's chest. The shaft vibrated in her hand. She held the thrust, then pulled it free in one smooth motion. An Amazon archer called from the sideline, grinning. "You always aim center. The head is smaller and harder to hit." Diana smiled slightly, breathing steady. "The heart stops the fight," she said. "The head is for show." A few of the women nearby laughed quietly. The mood was light. It felt like a normal day. Then the ground trembled. It was not a heavy quake. It was a brief, sharp pulse under their feet, as if something large had appeared without truly falling. The laughter stopped. Several Amazons straightened and reached instinctively for weapons. Diana's grip tightened on her spear. One of the guards at the edge of the field pointed toward the northern terrace. "Princess," she called. "There." Diana turned. Near the edge of the sacred terrace, on a flat section of stone that usually lay empty, something stood. It had not been there a moment before. It was a machine. The object was tall and broad, almost as high as three Amazons standing on each other's shoulders. It had a square base, heavy and solid, with polished metal sides. Two compartments jutted from the front, each with a small door. Above the doors, words were engraved in a language none of them knew. A large dial with several simple symbols sat above the center. A heavy key protruded from a side panel, set in a slot that suggested turning. Pipes, gears, and panels covered the rest of its surface, bolted and welded in precise lines. It was completely still. No steam escaped, no lights shone. It occupied the space with a solid, unmoving presence. A hush fell across the training ground. Diana's expression shifted from surprise to calm calculation. She walked toward the machine with her spear in hand, posture straight. The other Amazons fell in around her, bows raised, swords out, shields up. One of the older warriors frowned deeply. "It appeared from nothing," she said. "No sound, no flash, only a tremor." Another hissed softly through her teeth. "Some trick of the world of men. A weapon smuggled past our wards." Diana studied the object as she approached. It did not carry the feeling of divine power she knew from the gods. It did not carry the wild wrongness of the monstrous. It felt constructed, deliberate, and foreign. She stopped a few paces away. "Do not touch it," she said evenly. "Not yet." A younger Amazon eyed the dial and key with uneasy interest. "It looks like a forge that swallowed its own fire." Diana glanced at her. "That is one guess. We will not test it blind." Footsteps approached from behind. Hippolyta came up the terrace with two royal guards at her side. The queen's cloak moved gently with the breeze, her crown catching the light. Her eyes went immediately to the machine. Their mother's voice carried both curiosity and concern. "Daughter." Diana bowed her head slightly. "Mother, it appeared just now. No ship, no chariot, no god. It was simply here." Hippolyta walked around it slowly, keeping a careful distance. Her face remained calm, but her jaw was tense. "This is not the work of our craftsmen. It smells of oil and metal, not of divine craft. I do not like that it sits on our stone without invitation." "It could be a trap," one of the guards said. "It could be a message," another countered. "They have sent warriors before. Why not send a device?" Diana ran her fingers lightly along the shaft of her spear, thinking, there are organizations in the world of men that collect objects of power. They would not send a thing like this by accident. Hippolyta looked at her. "Your foundation." Diana nodded once. "They have a way of placing their troubles in other people's hands." Before Hippolyta could answer, the air near the cliffs changed. An Amazon scout on the high tower called out in a sharp, clear voice. "Unmarked craft over the northern sea." Bows came up, spears shifted, every eye turned toward the water. From beyond the invisible boundary that shielded the Masira, a shape emerged into view. It was a small aircraft by the standards of man's world, sleek and dark, with short wings and a compact body. It made little noise, engines humming at a controlled pitch. The ship flew low, heading toward the island's northern shore. No Amazon signal fires had called it. No permission had been given. Hippolyta's eyes went cold. "Archers," she said. "Range check." The women on the walls drew. Arrows knocked. Strings taut. Diana put a hand out. "Wait." Hippolyta looked at her daughter. "They breach our sky uninvited." Diana's gaze stayed on the craft. "Yes, and they did not come with missiles or open weapons. I have seen their transports. This one carries people who expect to talk." Hippolyta frowned, but did not order immediate fire. "We will meet them at the shore. If they set foot on the sand with arrogance, we will answer." She gestured to the guard. "Leave this thing under watch." She nodded toward the machine. "No one touches it. No one moves it. It remains where it stands until we understand it." "By your will," the guard captain said, bowing her head. Diana followed her mother toward the cliffs. Her spear stayed in hand. Her steps were measured but quick. The craft circled once, as if searching for a place to approach. It slowed, engines shifting pitch, then came in toward a flat stretch of beach where the sand met stone. Amazon archers lined the cliff edge, arrows aimed down, tracking it. Shield bearers assembled at the winding path that led down to the shore. The craft lowered and hovered just above the sand. Landing gear extended. It settled, sending a small cloud of dust outward. A ramp descended from its side. 3 figures emerged. They wore suits similar to those Apex had summoned before, though these were lighter and less armored. Dark fabric, reinforced at joints, with the Foundation insignia on the chest. No helmets, no weapons drawn. The one in front was a woman in her late 30s, hair pulled back into a tight braid, eyes sharp but not hostile. She paused at the bottom of the ramp and looked up at the Amazon line. Hippolyta stepped forward to the edge of the path, flanked by 2 guards. Diana stood at her right side. The wind tugged at their hair and cloaks. The woman on the beach lifted her hand, palm open in a greeting. When she spoke, her accent carried the cadence of the world beyond the sea, but her words were clear. "Queen Hippolyta, Princess Diana." She had done her homework. "I am Dr. Elena Costa. I represent the SCP Foundation. We come unarmed by order to address a breach that has reached your shores." The word breach made several Amazons tense. Hippolyta's voice was steady. "You cross our veil uninvited. You land on our beach. You speak our names as if we were in your files. That is not the way to start a request." Dr. Costa did not flinch. "I understand. Our appearance and that machine on your terraces are connected. We did not place it here. Someone else did. But it is our responsibility to remove it before it harms you." Diana's brow furrowed. "You refer to the object that appeared near our training ground. You recognize it." Costa nodded once. "Designation SCP-914. The Clockworks. A large mechanical device capable of transforming materials placed inside it according to settings on its controls. It is volatile in the wrong hands. It does not belong on your sacred ground." An archer near the cliff snorted softly. "Man's world again sends its dangerous toys and expects us to be grateful when they come to fetch them." Hippolyta raised her hand slightly, and the line quieted. She looked down at Costa. "You say it transforms materials. Into what?" Costa took a breath. She chose her words carefully. "Sometimes into refined versions of themselves, sometimes into entirely new substances. We have seen fragile objects emerge indestructible. We have seen harmless items become corrosive, incendiary, or worse. We cannot predict every outcome. That is why we lock it away." Diana's mind moved ahead. "Weapons." "Potentially," Costa admitted. "If someone experiments without restraint, yes." Hippolyta's gaze hardened. "Then this foundation of yours failed. It stands on our land now." Costa's mouth tightened briefly. Whoever moved it here wants us exposed. Wants you exposed to it. We are not pleased. Diana watched her face as she said it. There was real irritation there and concern. You do not control everything you claim to contain, Diana said. Costa nodded once. We are aware. We are trying to fix that. Hippolyta stepped down the first few stones of the path, closing the distance slightly. You wish to step onto their Misseran soil. You wish to approach a thing that appeared in the heart of our home. You wish to carry it away as if it were yours. Tell me why we should trust you to do this correctly. Costa met her eyes. Because leaving it here, where curious hands and divine minds might test it, is worse. Because we have studied it for years. Because we have lost people to its misuse already, and we have no desire to add Amazons to that ledger. And because I am under strict orders to treat your land with respect, or not come back at all. The last line was blunt and simple. It rang true. Diana's fingers eased slightly on her spear. You said it transforms what is put inside. Would it affect divine metal, Amazon steel? Costa's mouth turned grim. We have not had divine metals to test, but we have seen strong alloys altered into something unrecognizable. We do not recommend feeding it anything you care about. Hippolyta looked out toward the terrace, where the top edge of 914's bulk was just visible. We do not need a magic forge from the world of men. We have our own. Diana glanced at her. Mother, our own forges craft with care and ritual. This thing changes without wisdom. That is what she says. Hippolyta nodded slowly. Yes. She lowered her gaze back to Costa. We will not allow your foundation to claim the Masira as a depot for your SCPs. We will not host your cages. But if removing this machine prevents greater trouble, we will allow you to take it under our watch. Costa inclined her head, relief hidden under discipline. That is all we ask. Hippolyta's tone grew firm. You and your 2 companions may come up. No more. You will surrender any visible weapons to my guard. You will walk where we tell you. And you will not lay hands on any Amazon or stone without permission. Costa nodded immediately. Agreed. She turned to her people. Garen, Izumi with me. Weapons on the ramp. Full compliance. The 2 Foundation team members heaved a small sigh of relief behind their visors and unstrapped sidearms, placing them carefully on the edge of the ramp in plain view. Amazons above watched every move. The 3 humans climbed the path. At the top, Amazon guards took positions around them. The Foundation delegation stood on the Misseran rock, looking around at the statues, the ocean, and the women in armor. Costa's gaze lingered on the horizon for a second. Your home is beautiful, she said honestly. Hippolyta's tone stayed cool. Beauty does not protect us from arrogance. Diana's eyes flicked briefly over the Foundation logos on their suits. You must understand, this island has seen too many attempts from the world of men to take advantage of its peace. Costa nodded. We are not here to colonize. We are here to clean up after someone else's interference. They walked toward the terrace. As they approached, SCP-914 loomed ahead. In the clear daylight, its details stood out. The metal was worn but well maintained in its original home. Here, under the sun and salt air, it looked out of place. Several Amazons stood in a cautious circle around it, weapons ready. None faced away. None touched it. One young Amazon looked uncertain. It has not moved. It has not spoken. It just sits there. Costa's jaw clenched slightly. That is when it is safest. She approached to a respectful distance, stopping when the guard captain raised a hand. This is close enough, the captain said. You said it is dangerous. Our queen will not have you killed under her nose. Costa did not take offense. Fair, I only need to see the controls. From where she stood, she could make out the dial positions. Good, the selector is on rough. The key is neutral. That means no one has played with it here. Diana looked at the engraved labels above the in and out compartments. These words, what language? Old German, Costa said. In and out, that is all. Diana nodded slowly. So you put something in one side, turn the key, and open the other to find it changed. Yes, Costa said. We documented cycles. 5 standard settings: rough, coarse, 1, fine, very fine. Rough usually degrades. Fine usually refines. Very fine tends to create new things, often unstable. Hippolyta's eyes hardened. Someone placed a machine that creates unstable objects on my island. It would be worse in a city, Costa said. But yes, it is not welcome here either. The Queen gave her a sharp look. You are fortunate we agree on that. Diana studied the IN compartment door. And you have no idea who moved it. Costa shook her head. We know only that we did not. Diana thought of 343's words. A new conductor, someone pulling pieces. She felt irritation touch her, brief and sharp. Hippolyta turned to Costa. How do you plan to move it? Costa gestured to her 2 colleagues. We brought collapsible harnesses, grav lift modules, and shielding. The machine is heavy, but not immovable. With your permission, we will set them under it, raise it enough to slide our supports in, and walk it back to the craft. The guard captain frowned. You place devices under a thing you call dangerous. If it shifts while you strain beneath it, you die crushed. We have done this before, Izumi, one of the Foundation team members, said quietly. She had a soft, even tone. Slowly. We always keep the key in the neutral position and never touch the dial. We do not press the switch, and we never feed it on the move. Hippolyta's gaze swept over her. You have fear in your voice. Izumi looked her in the eye. I have respect in my voice. Fear helps when you work with things like this. That answer seemed to satisfy Hippolyta more than any bravado would have. Diana stepped closer, still outside the invisible line she had set for herself. We will help you keep eyes on it while you move it. Your people are few, ours are many. We will watch for any change. Costa inclined her head. Thank you. Hippolyta signaled to 3 Amazon engineers, women used to moving heavy statues and reinforcing buildings. Watch their work. If their methods threaten the stone, you say so. They will listen. Costa did not argue. We will. The next hour was slow and careful. Foundation staff set compact grav modules under the corners of 914, attaching them with straps and metal brackets. The machines hummed softly as they powered up. The Amazon engineers watched each step, occasionally pointing out stress fractures in the terrace or advising a different angle. When they activated the lift, SCP-914 rose a few inches from the stone. The sound was a low, steady vibration. The machine itself did not react. A line of Amazons took positions around it with spears and shields, forming a moving perimeter. They did not fully understand the threat, but they knew how to honor caution. Diana walked beside Costa as they guided the device toward the path. You have contained this for how long? Diana asked. Many years, Costa said. It came into our custody early. It has been responsible for several accidents. We learned faster with this one than some others. Diana nodded. You keep a ledger of your mistakes. Yes, Costa said quietly. We read it often. Hippolyta watched them move away from the central terrace with narrowed eyes. The sight of foreign technology leaving her island eased some tension in her shoulders. As they reached the path down to the beach, the grav units adjusted automatically, keeping 914 level despite the incline. The machine hovered above the stone, steady and indifferent. Several Amazons murmured at the sight. Their world dealt in divine levitation and magic, but there was something unnerving about a heavy machine floating so calmly under human devices. On the beach, archers still held bows ready, though their aims had dropped slightly. The Foundation craft waited, ramp open, engines idling. They brought 914 to the edge of the sand. The grav units shifted again, compensating for the softer ground. It moved forward without sinking. Costa let out a breath she had been holding. Almost there. Hippolyta looked down at her from the path. When you leave, you will take all trace of this thing with you. You will not leave fragments, tools, or residue. Costa nodded firmly. We will sweep the site. You have my word. Hippolyta's tone sharpened. And you will not assume that because you have stepped on our beach once, you may return freely. Costa met her gaze. We will not. If we must return for any reason, we will request it, through your daughter or through your League friends. Diana watched her carefully. You know you have opened a door just by coming. We know, Costa said. Doors once opened are hard to close. That is why we step carefully. They guided 914 up the ramp. Inside the craft, additional restraints waited. The machine locked into place with solid clanks. Shield panels folded around it, sealing it off. Izumi ran a scanner around the base, then nodded. No spill, no shift, stable. Costa turned back to the Amazons gathered at the top of the ramp. It is secure. Diana stepped closer, stopping just outside the threshold. If this ever appears here again, we will not wait for your arrival. We will treat it as an invading thing. Costa nodded. That is fair. If it appears here again, it means we have failed much worse than today. Hippolyta's voice carried from above. You have carried your junk from our shore. That is well. Now you will go. Costa's mouth tightened briefly, but she accepted the phrasing. We will. Thank you for not shooting us on approach. Hippolyta gave the slightest hint of a wry look. If your craft had shown teeth, we would have. Costa actually smiled at that for a second, then she inclined her head. Until next time, then. Hopefully not because of another breach. She stepped back inside. The ramp began to rise. Diana watched it close, then looked up at the sky where the craft would soon lift. A small tightness sat in her chest, not fear, but the constant weight of knowing another branch of man's world now had direct contact with her home. Her hand brushed the lasso at her side, a familiar piece of comfort. On the other side of the world, in a room full of screens, Apex watched the Foundation craft lift from the beach and vanish beyond the barrier's edge. He leaned back in his chair, expression relaxed and pleased. The Masira and the Foundation had now exchanged more than glances. That meant their next meetings, whatever shape they took, would come with memory. He enjoyed that thought. He folded his hands together and looked at the global map again, considering his next placements. Chapter 22, Guests on Stone and Steel. The Gotham Foundation command room had settled into its late-cycle rhythm. The main alarms were quiet. Operators spoke in low voices as they rotated through watch schedules, eyes on feeds from Gotham, Metropolis, Arkham, Site 57, and a dozen lesser facilities. The world looked stable enough that some people let themselves relax just a little. Apex sat in his usual chair near the central display wall, posture easy, one hand resting on the armrest, fingers idly tapping. The glow from the screens reflected in his eyes. One window showed the Masira's general region, tagged with minimal Foundation metadata and a notation. Access limited, mythological threat zone. Another showed the Watchtower's internal map, split into decks and bays with small icons marking Justice League presence. Data flowed steadily along the secure channel between the League and the Foundation. They had built that channel for 682, 96, and the rest. Now it carried regular updates like a normal line of communication. Apex smiled faintly. They were starting to treat each other like partners. He leaned back, let his eyes rest half a second on the Themyscira tag, then on the Watchtower schematic. Two very different sanctuaries, sacred ground below, a steel cathedral above. He felt a small spark of amusement and interest in his chest. Time to put people where they did not expect to be. He reached inward. The familiar, structured sense of options came into focus in his mind without changing his expression. First, the Masira again. A sentient humanoid, talkative, complex, not an uncontrollable killer, not a mindless thing. Someone who could stand in front of Amazons and Foundation staff and be her own person. Summon protocol, active. Select SCP, SCP-105, Iris Thompson. He chose her. At the same moment, he opened another branch. Summon Protocol, active. Select Foundation Unit. Limited Contact Diplomatic Containment Team, designation Theta 3. A small cell, light gear, more communication training than heavy armor. He confirmed both. Then he shifted his attention upward. The watchtower hung steady in orbit. Its schematic showed secondary storage bays on the lower ring, some empty, some full of League equipment and supplies. He wanted something immobile but worrying. A containment cell that could not be ignored. Summon Protocol, active. Select SCP Object. SCP-008 Sample Container, Hardened Secure Module. Select Foundation Unit. Research Operations Detail, Biohazard Clearance. An 8 sample meant no immediate explosion, no instant zombies, as long as the container stayed intact. It meant a permanent argument about risk, control, and trust. He confirmed those two. The commands went out without sound or light. On Themyscira and in orbit, reality shifted around his choices. Themyscira's air was warm and clear. The sun hung high now, closer to midday than dawn or dusk. Training had resumed after the removal of SCP-914. The Amazons moved across sand, stone, and grass with focused energy. On a quieter terrace near the library, a group of younger Amazons sparred under the guidance of an older sister, their wooden practice swords cracking against each other. Laughter rose when someone stumbled, then quickly turned back to concentration. In a shaded corner nearby, a simple stone bench looked out over the sea. One moment it sat empty. The next, Iris Thompson sat on it. She appeared with a slight gasp, body tensing instinctively. She wore a light containment jumpsuit marked with Foundation design codes at the cuffs. A camera on a strap hung at her chest, familiar weight against her. Her light hair fell in front of her eyes. She brushed it back with a small, uncertain movement. She froze when she saw sunlight, stone columns, and the ocean instead of steel walls and observation windows. Her fingers tightened on the edge of the bench. "This is not sight," she started, then stopped herself, breathing slowly. A few Amazons noticed her at once. Wooden blades dropped slightly. The older instructor narrowed her eyes and motioned for the younger ones to step back. They obeyed, forming a loose semicircle. The instructor approached, sword still in hand, stance ready. She studied the stranger, young, not physically imposing, not armored beyond the thin suit. The camera caught her eye. Iris swallowed and lifted her hands slightly. "Hi," she said carefully. "I think I took the wrong door." The instructor raised her wooden sword just enough to show it was ready. "You did not walk here," she said. "No boat came. No path leads to that bench from the sea." Iris's mouth twitched. "Right, of course. Magic Island, right." The instructor did not react to the phrase. "Name?" "Iris," she said. "Iris Thompson." "Rank?" the Amazon asked. Iris almost answered with Class D and caught herself. "I am not a soldier," she said instead. "I am a subject. Containment, not command." The words tasted bitter, but she said them anyway. The Amazon woman glanced towards the center of the island. "You are from the world beyond the mist." "Yes," Iris said. "That part I can confirm." She laughed once, nervously. It sounded thin in the open air. The younger Amazons watched with wide eyes. One whispered, "She looks like a normal girl." "Normal girls do not appear on our benches," the instructor replied without looking back. Iris noticed the tension and tried to slow her breathing. "Look, I'm not here to hurt anyone. I do not know how I got here. Last thing I remember, I was in a holding suite, then an exam room, then this." She gestured at the sky. The instructor said nothing for a moment. Then she lowered the tip of her sword slightly. "You will come with me," she said. "You will speak with the princess and the queen. They will decide what to do with you. Iris nodded quickly. Fair, sounds fair. She stood up slowly, careful not to make any sudden moves. The camera bounced against her chest. The gesture with her hand went automatically to steady it, fingers curling around the plastic body. The instructor's eyes sharpened. That device, it is important to you. Iris hesitated. You could say that. Hand it to me, the woman said. Iris winced. Her fingers tightened involuntarily. I really do not like being separated from it. It is complicated. The Amazon didn't blink. If you wish to walk across this island without feet bound, you hand it to me. Iris swallowed again. The air felt heavier. She looked at the camera, then at the woman. Okay, she said quietly. She unhooked the strap, lifted the camera with both hands, and held it out. The instructor took it with practiced care, as if it were a blade whose edge she could not see. She handed it to another Amazon behind her. Do not point this at anything within these walls until the Queen has seen it, she said. The younger woman nodded and held the device securely. Iris watched it go with a small, anxious pull in her expression. Without the camera, she felt strangely lighter and more exposed at the same time. The instructor gestured. Walk. Iris did. On the far side of the Messira, high over the water, the air shivered. The Foundation shuttle for Theta 3 had been in transit over the Mediterranean. From the pilot's perspective, they had banked around a cloud layer, and then their instruments had exploded with noise. New coordinates, new signal intensity, new readings. The craft slipped through the veil, as if it had always had permission. Inside, Dr. Elena Costa's assistant looked at the new readings in disbelief. We just crossed into somewhere that does not exist on any map. The pilot gripped the controls. Welcome to myth territory. Costa was not aboard this time. She had been summoned for debrief elsewhere. Theta 3's current lead, Dr. Andre Varga, stood behind the cockpit with a tablet in his hands. Late 30s, short dark hair, sharp eyes that missed little. He saw the coastline ahead, the shape of the island, the glint of armor on the cliffs. Same place, he said quietly. They will be thrilled to see us again. The craft approached slowly, as before, and hovered near the same stretch of beach. This time the archers were already aimed and ready, impatience clear in their stances. On the upper path, Hippolyta and Diana stood side by side again. The Queen's expression was tighter this time. The craft lowered, ramp extended. Varga stepped out first, wearing the lighter diplomatic containment suit, no weapons visible. Two colleagues followed, hands empty. He lifted his gaze toward the Queen. Queen Hippolyta, Princess Diana, I am Dr. Varga, Theta 3. We come at the request of our director. An SCP subject under our care has been displaced. Our systems indicate she is on your island. Diana's eyes narrowed. She has already appeared. Hippolyta's lips pressed together. Your people keep losing things. Varga accepted the hit with a brief dip of his head. We are not proud of it. We are trying to correct it when we can. Subject designation 105. Iris Thompson. Young woman, early 20s, human, with anomalous optical abilities linked to a specific camera. She is not physically dangerous without tools. With the camera, she can see and sometimes interact with distant locations. Diana exchanged a quick look with her mother. The device you want, Hippolyta said, is in our custody. The girl is being brought to us now. Varga looked a bit relieved. Good. We would like her returned to supervised containment with the camera before either of them are misused here. Hippolyta's eyes cooled further. We do not misuse guests. Varga's voice softened a little. I did not mean to imply that. My concern is directed more at whoever keeps plucking our assets and dropping them here like chess pieces. Diana heard the honest frustration there. You are not orchestrating this. No, Varga said quickly. If we were, I would have chosen somewhere with less potential for getting skewered. A small, reluctant flicker of amusement touched Diana's eyes. It faded quickly, but it was there. Hippolyta stood silent for a moment, weighing the situation. You will not take one of our guests without speaking to her in our halls. We will hear what she wants. Varga's brows rose slightly. You give her a choice. She stands on my stone, Hippolyta said. That makes her mine to consider, not yours to collect. Varga did not argue. Understood. We will accept her wishes within the limits of what we can allow. Diana nodded once. Then you will come to the hall without weapons, as before. They surrendered their sidearms at the ramp edge again. The pattern was already familiar. The procession moved up the path. In the Gotham base, Apex watched the new shuttle icon attached to the hidden Themyscira marker. He watched the path trace from the beach up toward the center of the island. He leaned back, one hand loosely clasped around the other wrist, expression calm and quietly pleased. His gaze slid upward to the watchtower schematic. Time for the second part. In the watchtower, Jaeon noticed the anomaly first. It appeared as a discrepancy in storage mass readings in secondary Bay S4. No docking cycles, no teleporter logs, just a sudden jump in weight and volume in a sealed compartment that had been empty 30 seconds before. He brought it up on the main console. Batman stood nearby, reviewing Metropolis logs. He glanced over when the new window opened. "What is it?" he asked. "A containment module," Jaeon said. "Foundation design from the signatures. Hardened casing, internal atmosphere control, multiple locks. It did not come through our usual routes." Batman recognized the outline. He had seen files. Boxes like that held things that turned people into other things. He spoke quietly. 8. Jaeon read the tag on the scan. SCP-008 sample. He frowned. A pathogen. A very specific one, Batman said. Non-standard prion, highly contagious if released, zombie-like symptoms, high mortality. Foundation keeps it locked under heavy protocols. "Why is it on our station?" Jaeon asked. "Because someone wanted to put it where both we and the Foundation could see it," Batman answered. Even as he spoke, the secure link chimed. "Foundation's signal," Jaeon said. "High-priority biohazard detail inbound. Docking ring 2. They say they have been rerouted to an unexpected orbital coordinate matching this one." Batman's jaw tightened behind the mask. "Of course they have." He straightened. "Bring the bay up on internal cameras. Keep the door sealed until we have a team here." The feed from S4 showed a rectangular module bolted to the deck. Dark metal, warning labels, multiple key slots. It hummed faintly as its internal systems ran. Superman entered the control hub a moment later, cape trailing, expression alert. He had felt the small power redistribution in the station. "What now?" he asked. 8-sample container, Batman said. "Secondary bay, no entry. Foundation bio team on approach." Clark's eyes hardened. Whoever is doing this is getting bolder. "Yes," Batman said. He turned toward the docking corridor. The Foundation biohazard detail stepped onto the watchtower with the weary alertness of people who had seen bad things in small bottles. 5 of them, all in light hazmat suits with Foundation insignia. Their leader, Dr. Elise Harrow, wore her hood down for now, revealing short curly hair and tired eyes. A case hung from one hand, marked with medical and containment symbols. Batman met them with Superman and Jaeon in the main corridor. Dr. Harrow stopped a respectful distance away. "We did not schedule this," she said without preamble. "Our pilot got a hard redirect mid-flight with coordinates up here and a string of curse words from our own system about 8 being in the wrong place." Superman folded his arms. "We did not bring it." "We figured," Harrow said. "We do not give lethal prion samples joyrides." Batman's voice stayed flat. "It is in secondary Bay S4, sealed. Cameras show no breach. We have not approached." "That is good," Harrow said. "We are here to take it back and run a full audit on how it moved." Last time you came for 173, you wanted our eyes, Batman said. This time. This time we want your blessing to get it off your station as fast as possible, Harrow replied. There is no safe reason to keep 8 in orbit where a hull breach could scatter it into vacuum. Jaeon considered that. Can it survive in open space? Harrow frowned slightly. No one has tested that for obvious reasons. We prefer not to find out. Superman's gaze moved toward the bay on the HUD. So our choices are simple. You take it, or we throw it into the sun. Harrow's mouth twitched. We do not usually recommend stellar disposal without long analysis, but in this case, I am not going to fight you about it. Batman studied her. You are willing to lose a sample. 8 is not a piece of tech we can take apart, Harrow said. It is a disease. We know what it does. We have more than one container on Earth. Losing this one is annoying, not crippling. Leaving it sitting on your station is unacceptable. That answer got Batman's full attention. You have redundancy, he said. Of course, she answered. We do not put all our dangerous eggs in one basket just so someone can break it and end the world. Superman grimaced softly, comforting. Harrow spread her hands slightly. We are realistic, that is all. Batman's mind ran through the implications. Multiple 8 samples, redundant containment. One box in orbit was not an irreplaceable bargaining chip, but a liability. He nodded once. Then we do this together. You secure the box. We escort you off. You decide whether you study it or launch it into the star. But if it turns up here again, we will not wait for your answer. Harrow accepted that without argument. Fair. They moved toward S4 together. The containment module sat in the center of the bay, secured to the deck by locking clamps that had not been there earlier. The internal readings showed stable temperature, pressure, and no leaks. Harrow approached slowly, suit hood up now, respirator active. Her team fanned out around the module, scanners in hand. No visible breach, one of them said. Seal integrity green, no gas signatures. Harrow placed her case on the floor, opened it, and took out a portable transfer cradle. We are not unlocking this here. We clamp the whole thing into our cradle and move it as a unit. No direct access. Superman watched her work. You do not want to confirm it is really 8. Harrow glanced up at him. If this is a trick and someone puts sugar water in there, that is one of the better outcomes. We will test it back in a deep lab, not 10 decks away from your oxygen supply. He accepted that. Good. Batman kept his eyes on every hand movement. Jaeon monitored biosigns. The team fixed the cradle around the container, locked clamps, and engaged the internal stabilizers. The module lifted a few centimeters from the deck, supported by the cradle systems. Harrow checked a panel, then straightened, ready to move. Superman stepped forward. I will carry it. Harrow hesitated. With respect, if you trip. I do not trip, he said. She studied his face and accepted that. All right, just do not sneeze. He almost smiled at that. He took hold of the cradle frame and lifted. For him, the weight was negligible. The cradle's own systems kept the container level by design. They moved back through the corridors, Foundation team close, League close behind. The combination looked strange but worked. At the docking ring, Harrow's pilot already had the shuttle ramp down. They brought the module inside, locked it into their internal restraints, and sealed the bay. Multiple locks engaged with heavy clicks. Harrow stepped back out long enough to look at Superman and Batman. We will log this as an unauthorized relocation and a joint retrieval, she said. If our audit turns up anything useful about how it moved, we will share it through the channel. Batman's tone stayed cool, assuming your superiors allow it. Harrow held his gaze. If they do not, I will scream until they reconsider. Superman believed her. Do what you can. I always do, she replied. She returned inside. The ramp rose. The shuttle released its clamps and drifted away from the ring before its drive engaged, and it left the immediate vicinity. The watchtower hummed quietly. In the control hub, J-On marked S4 as clear and sealed. Batman watched the departing shuttle for a moment, then turned his attention back to the broader map. 2 more moves on the board, he said. Superman's eyes shifted from space to Earth. Themyscira and here. Yes, Batman said. They are not breaking anything yet, Superman said. No, Batman replied. They are testing our responses. On Themyscira, Iris stood in the audience hall. The high stone chamber was open to the sea breeze, columns rising to carved beams. Lights spilled across the floor mosaics. Hippolyta sat on her throne, guards at either side. Diana stood nearby, expression attentive. Foundation's Theta 3 delegation stood off to one side, hands behind their backs. Dr. Varga held his tablet tucked under one arm, trying not to stare openly at the statues and armor. An Amazon guard brought Iris forward. She walked with her shoulders slightly hunched, eyes flicking between the Queen, Diana, and the Foundation suits. The camera was still in Amazon hands, held by a warrior near one of the columns. Hippolyta watched Iris approach. "You are far from home," she said. Iris gave a small, awkward smile. "Story of my life." Her eyes went to the camera. "Can I ask where my partner went?" Diana spoke. "Your device is safe. No one has used it. It will not be returned to you without discussion." Iris nodded. "That is fair. You could have already given it a spin." A slight hint of humor softened Diana's face. "We prefer not to test unknown machines on our own floors." Dr. Varga stepped forward a little. "Iris." She looked at him, her shoulders tensing. "Dr. Varga, new cage." He winced slightly at the tone. "New investigation. This is not something we arranged. You know that." "Yeah," she said. "I figured. Your people aren't subtle, but you are not this weird." The corner of Varga's mouth twitched despite the tension. Hippolyta's gaze moved between them. "Your handlers wish to take you away from here," she said to Iris. "They say you belong in their containment." Iris laughed once tiredly. "Containment is one word for it." "They are not the only ones with an opinion," Hippolyta continued. "You stand on the Missa and stone. You are not our prisoner. You are a guest who arrived unasked." Diana's eyes met Iris's. "We know a little of what your foundation does. We know they keep dangerous things away from the world. We also know they keep people like tools." Iris looked down for a moment, then back up. "That is accurate, yeah." Diana's voice softened slightly. "What do you want, Iris Thompson?" The question hit harder than Iris expected. She swallowed. "That is not usually part of the script." "It is part of this one," Diana said. Iris hesitated. "If I say I want to stay on the Magic Island, where no one calls me SCP anything, does that break some ancient treaty?" Hippolyta did not answer immediately. Varga spoke instead, gently, careful not to sound like a captor. "You know we cannot just leave you here," he said. "There are agreements. There are other SCPs watching what happens to you. If you vanish from our roles, others will push boundaries, and the one pulling strings now will see an opening." Iris frowned. "You think the one moving all your stuff around is watching my file?" "Yes," Varga said. "You are a known quantity. You cooperate. You do not cause chaos. That makes you a good candidate for tests, and a dangerous precedent if you go free this way." Diana's jaw tightened. "You admit you see her as part of your structure first." "And as a person second," Varga said quietly, "but not last." That small ad hit Iris more than she wanted it to. She let out a breath. "I know what my presence in your system means," she said, looking at Diana. "If I run now, I make it worse for others in labs and cells. They clamp down harder. They point at me and say, 'See, cooperation leads to escapes.'" Hippolyta watched her silently, weighing her honesty. Iris rubbed the cuff of her sleeve between two fingers. "So I cannot just walk off into the sunset, even if you would let me." That is the bad news. Diana asked, and the good? Iris glanced at Varga. The good is that last time I saw something change. When they came for that big machine you had, they listened to you. They made deals. They let heroes visit kids in cells. That is new for them. Varga nodded once. Iris looked back at Diana and Hippolyta. If I go with them again, I want something, officially, on paper. You get to check on me. League gets to check on me, not every day, but sometimes. If things get worse, you know. If things get better, you see it too. Hippolyta's eyes narrowed slightly. You ask for witnesses. Yeah, Iris said. I do not want to disappear again into a place where the only people who see me have clipboards. That is my line. Diana's jaw eased a fraction. You would go back to a cage if it had a window. Iris smiled sadly. Windows are more than I had before. Varga looked at Hippolyta. We can write that in. Caldwell has already opened the door for visitation with 40. Extending that concept to 105 is possible. Hippolyta studied them both. You treat people like designations and then ask for trust. Yes, Varga said simply. Diana felt a small twist in her chest. She did not like it. She did not like yet another person leaving here for a human facility full of labels and numbers. But she respected Iris's clarity. She spoke slowly. If you choose to go with them, we will support your terms. I will add my own condition. Iris tilted her head. Which is? Diana's eyes stayed steady. If the Foundation breaks its word to you, they will answer to us for it. You will not be alone in that fight. Varga did not look surprised. I expected that. Hippolyta nodded. So did I. Iris let out a breath that shook slightly. Okay, she said. Then I go with them. I do not like it, but it is the best bad option on the table. The tension in the room shifted. It did not vanish, but it changed shape. Hippolyta gestured to the Amazon holding the camera. Return her device. The Amazon stepped forward carefully and placed the camera in Iris's hands. Iris closed her fingers around it and exhaled. Thank you. Hippolyta said, on this island it will remain off. Yeah, Iris said quickly. I am not about to start snapping paradise. There was a faint ripple of humor through the hall at that. Varga stepped forward half a pace. We will escort you back, Iris. Same transport protocols. You will have my report in your file. I will write the visitation conditions clearly. I will read it, she said. Then I will make faces at it when you are not looking. He smiled almost warmly. That is your right. Hippolyta spoke to him directly. You will ensure that when she is visited, she is not shown off like a beast in a pit. She will be treated as a person with guests. Yes, Varga said. I can promise that. Diana added, when I come, I will not be gentle if that promise is broken. I know, Varga said. They meant it on both sides. Iris looked at Diana. Tell the others in Cape Land I am still around, okay? I will, Diana said. They will be glad. Iris gave a small half-salute with 2 fingers. Then she turned and walked toward the exit with Theta 3. Her shoulders were still hunched, but there was a sliver more steadiness in her step than when she had arrived. Diana watched her go. Hippolyta watched the Foundation delegation walk out of the hall and down toward the beach again. The island breathed out as the craft lifted and vanished beyond the barrier. On the other side of the world, Apex leaned back and let his fingers still. The Messira, the Watchtower, the Foundation, the League, and a handful of SCPs were now tied together by more than accidents. Agreements sat under the surface. The game pieces knew each other's faces. His chest felt light. He smiled. He was ready for another move. Chapter 23, Music in the Walls. The Gotham Foundation base ran on low noise and steady stress. Monitors lined the front wall, each showing a different slice of the world. Gotham's streets, Metropolis, skyline, the distant ice over Site 57, the orbiting outline of the Watchtower, the blurred zone tagged for the Messira, and the persistent threat icons that never fully left the overlay. In one of the chairs near the central cluster, Apex sat with his back relaxed against the rest, one ankle resting over his knee. His hands were quiet on the armrests. The glow from the screens reflected faintly in his eyes. Arkham's feed occupied one of the mid-sized displays. Interior cameras flicked from corridor to common area, from cell doors to the main office. It looked almost ordinary. Guards walked their rounds. Staff checked clipboards. Inmates shouted at each other or at the walls. Apex watched that feed for a few seconds, then let his gaze move to the Foundation's incident log panel. Arkham sat marked with a yellow tag. Joint interest, heroic activity possible. No active SCP flags there now. He smiled. They have had monsters and statues, he said quietly. They have not had a song yet. No one around him was close enough to hear more than a vague murmur. The nearest operator was busy tracking a low-level anomaly in South America and did not turn around. Apex reached for that invisible point where options sat. There was no visible change, no flicker, no sound, only a clear sense in his mind of what he could call. He wanted something subtle and cruel in the mind, but not world-ending. Something that spread through sight and thought, not claws. Summon protocol, active. Select SCP artifact, SCP-012, bad composition. A sheet of music that seized people through their need to complete it. It made them use what they had, often blood. He accepted it. Then he opened another branch. A direct mimetic hit required a specialized answer. Summon protocol, active. Select Foundation unit, Memetics and Infohazard Division Field Cell plus MTF ETA-10. See no evil support. ETA-10 handled visual hazards. The Memetics Division handled the rest. Both would be useful. He confirmed. On the Arkham feed, nothing changed for a moment. Then the work began. Arkham Asylum's records archive sat in a low, cramped wing behind the main administrative block. Old paper files filled metal cabinets. Microfiche machines collected dust in the corner. The air smelled of paper, ink, and a faint trace of cleaning chemicals that no one applied often enough. A single orderly sat at the central table under a harsh fluorescent light. His name tag read P. Harris. He was in his late 30s, long shift behind him, eyes tired. He flipped slowly through a stack of patient files, making notes for a transfer review. He yawned, rubbed his eyes, and reached for the next file. The folder he grabbed was not one he remembered setting there. The cardboard was older. The label on the tab had no name, just a faint mark almost worn away. It felt thicker than it looked. He frowned and opened it. Inside lay a single sheet of old, yellowed notation paper. Musical staff lines filled it from top to bottom. Notes crowded the measures. Some parts smeared. Others were precise. It was written in a hand that was not his and not like anything in Arkham's normal files. There was no patient information, no doctor's note, only the music. Harris squinted at it. He was not a musician, but he had heard enough music on the radio to pick out patterns. This one seemed wrong. The notes clustered tight. The rests were gone. The rhythm felt off in a way he could not name. He should have closed the folder and filed it under misplaced. He did not. His eyes stayed on the first line. His breathing slowed. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. He leaned closer without noticing he had moved. The notes pulled at him. His mind began to trace them. His fingers twitched as if they wanted to hold a pen. The thought rose, quiet at first. This is unfinished. He swallowed. The back of his throat felt dry. He reached for a pen, then stopped. The pen was wrong. Ink was wrong. The staff seemed to demand something stronger. His hand moved toward his pocket instead. There was a small folding knife in there, the kind he used to open boxes and cut ties. Arkham rules did not love it, but no one checked orderlies as closely as they checked guards. His fingers closed around it. His movements were slow, calm. His face had gone slack in a focused way. His eyes did not leave the sheet. He placed the paper flat on the table. He held his left hand over the edge of the page. He opened the knife with his right. His mind did not think of consequences. It thought of empty bars and incomplete shapes. He drew the blade across his palm. Pain flared, a clear, sharp line. Blood welled up at once and dripped onto the notes. The first dark drops hit the staff. They spread into the paper. He smiled faintly in relief, as if something had been waiting to move. He closed his left hand into a fist and squeezed, letting more fall. The blood started to trace along the staff lines. He grabbed a fountain pen from the side of the table, dipped it into his own blood, and began to write. He hummed quietly under his breath, matching a tune that did not exist outside his head. 5 minutes later, a security guard opened the archive door. "Harris, you still in?" He stopped. Harris sat slumped forward, cheek near the page. His left hand lay open on the table, cut deeper than he realized. Blood smeared across the paper and down the edge of the table. The pen rested in his fingers loosely. His skin was pale. The guard swore, "Damn it." He crossed the room in 3 quick steps, grabbed Harris' wrist, and checked for a pulse. It was weak but present. "Hey," the guard said sharply, "stay with me." Harris's eyes fluttered open. They were unfocused and fixed on the sheet. "The music," he whispered, "still missing notes." The guard followed his gaze to the paper. The notation looked worse now. The added markings were messy, uneven. Blood had smudged several sections. Some lines carried half-formed symbols. The guard's head tilted. He did not read music, but something on that page made his temples throb. It looked off. It sounded off in his memory, even though he had never heard it. He felt a sudden need to get closer to see which parts were wrong. He leaned in. His pupils widened slightly. He reached out with his free hand. Arkham's internal health monitor pinged 10 minutes later. 2 staff members in the same room, both with sudden blood loss, one unresponsive. The system flagged it and sent an automatic note to administration. Dr. Jeremiah Arkham stood in his office when the alert popped up. He frowned, set down his pen, and opened the report. 2 staff down in the archive, he muttered. What now? He picked up the phone and hit security. "Marsh," he said when they answered. "Send a second team to records. I am coming down, and lock the door until I get there." "Yes, sir," the voice answered. "We have 1 man on the way already. His check-in was late." Arkham hung up, grabbed his coat, and left the office. Halfway down the main corridor, he heard a distant shout from the lower wing. He picked up speed. The Foundation's Arkham monitoring console chimed in the Gotham base. One of the operators checked the feed out of habit. His eyes narrowed as he saw 2 staff biometrics spike, then drop, then stabilize in erratic patterns. Both signals originated from the same room. "Director," he called. Arkham just logged a double medical event in their archive. Simultaneous staff involvement, rapidly falling vitals, no patient proximity. Caldwell looked up from her own screen and walked over. "Show me." He brought up the camera feed from the archive. The view showed the 2 bodies slumped around the central table. Harris lay half over the surface, arm hanging down. The guard was on the floor beside him, one hand under his own arm, blood smeared along the tiles. Both stared at the page between them. The image resolution caught details. The sheet of music in the center of the table gleamed faintly with wet strokes. Caldwell's eyes hardened. Zoom. He did. The staff lines and notes became clearer. It was impossible to tell exactly what the melody would sound like, but the density and placement triggered something in her memory. She had read 12's file. Caldwell did not swear. Her jaw tightened. Mimetic's signature, she said. This matches 12's profile. The operator turned his head, but 12 is in. I know where it is supposed to be, Caldwell said. It is not there. It is in Arkham. Set mimetic hazard flags. Get me mimetic's division on the line and scramble ETA 10. Another operator spoke up from 2 seats over. Ma'am, Gotham PD channels also show Arkham requesting immediate outside support. Code language matches their Batman. We have something weird, Patton. Caldwell breathed out through her nose. Of course they do. She tapped her headset. Get Batman on our secure line. We are not running 2 separate responses through the same asylum. Batman stood on a Gotham rooftop. Cape pulled close against the wind when Gordon's call came through. Arkham again, Gordon said, voice tired over the secure channel. 2 staff down, self-inflicted injuries, blood writing on the walls. Doctors are talking about a song and saying the notes are wrong. Batman listened, brow furrowing behind the cowl. Any inmate involvement? Not yet, Gordon said. Staff only so far. That is what bothers me. Batman's jaw tightened. Keep regular units out of the archive wing, seal it, but do not send more people into that room. Gordon did not argue. You think SCPs? Yes, Batman said. The pattern fits their mimetic objects. As he ended that call, another line chimed. Foundation secure channel. Caldwell's voice came on. We have a 12 event in Arkham Asylum's archive. Visual mimetic hazard. You are already going. Yes, Batman said. We should coordinate. We are deploying a mimetics division field team and ETA 10. See no evil, Caldwell said. They are equipped for visual and info hazard suppression. I prefer you not walk into that room with a cape and a guess. Batman's tone stayed calm. I will meet them on the roof. No one opens that archive door before we are aligned. Agreed, Caldwell said. I will patch you into their channel en route. He cut the line and fired a grapnel. The line caught. He swung off the rooftop, moving through Gotham's air toward Arkham's looming outline. Arkham's roof was cold and empty when he landed. Spotlights from the outer yard cast a harsh white glow on the asylum's stone walls. The sky above was low and grey. The city lights flickered in the distance. He moved to the central rooftop access, cape flowing behind him, and waited at the edge. A low hum grew louder. A Foundation VTOL craft appeared over the tree line and approached the roof. Its underside lights stayed dim. It slowed, adjusted its attitude, and lowered toward a clear section of roof that Arkham's staff had cleared earlier by order. Batman watched it with his arms folded, stance steady. The craft settled lightly. Its ramp lowered with a hydraulic hiss. A group stepped out. ETA 10, see no evil, wore heavier gear than the diplomatic teams he had seen. Their helmets had enclosed visors marked with hazard sigils. Additional layers around the eyes suggested multiple filters. Their armor was matte and functional, no extra decoration beyond unit insignia and small identifiers. Next to them walked 3 people in lighter but sealed suits with clear visors and blue stripes on the arms. Their gear showed Mimetic's division in small letters near the shoulders. At their head, a woman in her early 40s moved with calm precision. She had dark hair pulled back, visible through the clear part of the hood, and a controlled, focused expression. Her badge identified her as Dr. Lynn Park. She approached Batman, stopping a few feet away. Batman, she said. Dr. Park, Mimetics and Info Hazard Division. This is Captain Reyes, ETA 10. Reyes, the armored unit leader, nodded. His voice came through a modulator. We handle visual anomalies. They handle whatever crawls into your head when you read the wrong thing. Batman's gaze shifted briefly to each of them, then back to Park. SCP-012. Park nodded once. We have its pattern on record. Compulsive urge to complete the composition. Uses available medium. Blood is common. It spreads through visual exposure to the score. Hearing descriptions does not trigger it. Partial glimpses can still infect. Reyes added, "That is why my people are wearing layered filters. Our visors will display scrambled images over any direct line to the sheet. We will not read the music. You should not either." Batman's jaw flexed. Understood. Park looked at him directly. "You have enhanced memory and pattern recognition. That makes you a prime target. Your mind will try to fill in gaps. That is exactly what 12 uses." Batman did not argue. "I came prepared." He reached into his belt and took out a small case. Inside lay a pair of contact lenses with faint markings etched along the rim. "I had Oracle prepare a visual scrambling overlay for text and notation we tag as mimetic," he said. "They will scramble staff lines into unreadable blocks." Park looked impressed for a second. "That will help. They might not be perfect against all anomalies, but against this one, any disruption is useful." He put the lenses in with practiced care. When he blinked, the world looked the same, but any straight lines on distant signage now blurred slightly. It would hurt to read fine print, but that did not matter tonight. Reyes gestured toward the rooftop access door. "We go in together. First goal is to isolate the room. Second is to secure the object without triggering more exposure." Batman nodded. Arkham's administration sealed the archive and pulled staff away. 2 injured are still inside. Their security did not dare open the door. Park's eyes hardened. "They did the right thing. We will see if they are retrievable." They moved. Inside Arkham, the air was heavier. The asylum's halls were built from concrete and old tile, paint peeled in corners. Security doors clanked when they opened. The smell of disinfectant sat over everything, never strong enough to cover the underlying odor of too many people in too small a space. Dr. Arkham waited just inside the main doors leading to the lower wings. His glasses sat at an angle on his nose, and his tie was slightly loose. He had a file in hand, but clearly had not had time to read it. He tensed when he saw the Foundation group and Batman together. "This is my asylum," he said by habit. "No one is contesting that," Batman said. "We are here to keep your staff from bleeding out over a piece of music." Arkham's jaw worked once. 2 staff in the archive lost a significant amount of blood. They both mumbled about notes and missing measures. A 3rd guard opened the door to check on them and stopped answering his radio before he got there. We locked the wing after that. Park listened, face still. "So we have at least 3 exposed. Maybe more if anyone looked over shoulders before you sealed it." Arkham pushed his glasses up. "I ordered all other staff to stay away from that corridor. We have enough madness in cells without adding an infection that eats through my people." "You did the correct thing," Park said. "Now we will do ours." He looked at her suit and then at Rey's armor. "You are different from the last teams that came through here." "Different threat," Rey said. "Last time was screaming. This time it is reading." Arkham rubbed his temple briefly. "I do not like either." Batman asked, "Is the security system still recording in the archive?" "Yes," Arkham said, "but the feed is on a locked loop now. I did not want an orderly in a back office catching a glimpse and deciding to join in." Park nodded. "Smart. Keep it off until we are done." They moved down the corridor together. The closer they got to the archive wing, the quieter Arkham became. Inmates in nearby cells sensed something and shouted, rattled bars, or pressed against the glass. But their noise faded as the group turned a corner and reached a door marked records, staff only. 2 security guards stood there, tense with rifles at low ready. They both looked relieved when they saw Batman and then wary when they saw the Foundation suits. "Door sealed, Doctor," one said quickly. "No one in or out since you gave the word." "Good," Arkham said. Park stepped up to the door. "Any windows?" "Only interior glass," Arkham said. "Into the room itself. We covered them with blankets from storage." "Then that is one less vector," she said. She turned to Reyes. Standard entry pattern. We breach with shields up, view down first. No one looks at table height until I say so. Reyes nodded. He signaled his people. 2 ETA 10 operatives stepped forward with compact shields that folded out from their forearms, creating opaque panels in front of their visors. Batman watched every step, mind mapping the room beyond based on floor plans. Park glanced at him. You stay behind the first line until we clear initial sight. Your lenses will help, but I do not want you catching a clean angle by accident. He did not argue. Fine. Reyes nodded at the guard. On your mark, open. The guard keyed in the override. The lock clanged. The door swung inward slowly. A smell rolled out. Metallic, thick and sharp. Blood. The lights inside flickered. Reyes and his point man stepped through with shields up, visors just above shield line, guns angled low. Batman followed a step behind, Park beside him, Arkham just outside the threshold with one hand on the doorframe. The archive was small. Cabinets lined the walls. A file cart lay tipped over near the entrance, papers scattered, some stained dark. The central table held the 2 staff members. Harris slumped in his chair, head bowed, one arm outstretched. The guard sat on the floor, back against the table leg, head tilted, eyes half open and glassy. Another body lay by the far cabinet, hand still reaching toward the table. That would be the 3rd guard who had come to check. Blood covered the table, the papers, parts of the floor. Some of it dried, some still wet. The sheet of music sat in the center of the table. Only Park looked directly at it, and only through multiple filters and a practiced mental stance. Even then, she did not let her attention linger on any one measure. She felt the pull at once. Her mind started to weigh gaps. She shut that down with a reflex honed over years. Do not look at the paper, she said calmly. You keep your eyes on the bodies or the walls. Rey's team did as told. Their visors already broadcast scrambled patterns over the table area. Their weapon muzzles swept in a controlled arc, checking corners. Batman's altered lenses reduced the sheet to a blur inside a rectangle. He could see where it was without seeing it. He focused instead on the men. He moved to the nearest staffer, Harris, and checked his neck with 2 gloved fingers. Alive, he said, weak pulse. Park stepped closer carefully, attention divided between him and the page. He is under compulsion. If he wakes and sees it again, he will try to continue. Then we move him blind, Batman said. 2 ETA 10 operatives stepped up with a folded opaque blanket. They held it between themselves and the table, shielding their view from the page as they leaned in. Batman guided them with short, precise instructions. Step left. His arm is caught on the edge. Free it. Now pull. They lifted Harris and carried him out without letting him face the paper. Park watched the guard next on the floor. His arm had several cuts, deeper than Harris. The blood pooling around him was darker. Batman knelt and checked his pulse. Faint, he said, but present. Same protocol, Park said. Move him out without a second look at the table. They did. The 3rd man by the cabinet had cut both his wrists. His skin was too pale. Batman checked anyway. Gone, he said quietly. Park's mouth tightened. We will address that later. For now, the vector. She focused on 12. On the sheet, the added blood strokes and smeared notes pulled at every trained part of her mind. She had done her dissertation on mimetic patterns. She had built counters to info hazards. She still felt a whisper of temptation. She spoke to herself internally, counting backwards, focusing on neutral imagery, letting the pull slide past. Raise, she said evenly. Deploy the shade box. He signaled. 1 ETA 10 operative opened a case and unfolded an opaque cube with manipulators built into its sides. Park approached the table and stopped just short of the sheet. I will keep eyes on it while you move the box over. Do not look down. Your overlays are good, but they are not perfect. Reyes nodded and stepped behind her, eyes on the far wall, hands on the box handles. The operative with the case guided the box toward the table by feel and verbal direction. Forward, Park said. Half step, left, down. The cube lowered. Its open bottom slid over the sheet without touching it. Internal servos clicked as it attached to the table with small clamps. Park exhaled carefully. Box in place, shutters. The operative hit a switch. The cube's internal shutters dropped, sealing the contents from line of sight. The mimetic pull faded at once. Park's shoulders relaxed a fraction. We have it blocked. Move it. Rey's people lifted the cube. It came away from the table cleanly, clamps releasing with a soft sound. They carried it out, keeping everyone's eyes above the box line. Batman watched the room around them now that the main hazard was contained. On the walls near the table, someone had smeared bloody lines in rough staff shapes. Some carried half-drawn notes. The patterns echoed the sheet in incomplete ways. Secondary contamination, he said. These markings may carry weaker compulsion. Park stepped back in and glanced at the wall marks through her filters. She felt only a faint echo this time. Degraded, she said. Still not safe for casual staff. We will photograph with scrambled lenses and wash. Reyes called over his shoulder. We brought solvent and paint. Arkham stood in the doorway, watching with tight lips. You will scrub my walls and carry your evil sheet away. What about my people's minds? Park turned to him. We brought mimetic decontamination protocols. We cannot promise full reversal for deep exposure, but we can break the active compulsion and reduce lingering effects. Arkham crossed his arms. I do not want my staff humming an unseen tune for the rest of their lives. Neither do we, she said. Batman stepped out into the corridor where the makeshift medical station had already been set up. Medics from Arkham and a small Foundation support unit worked over the two surviving staffers. Harris lay on a stretcher, one arm wrapped tightly, IV line in place. His eyes were open now, glassy but focused on the ceiling. Batman stood where Harris could see him, but not past him. Harris blinked slowly. Batman. Batman nodded once. What happened? Harris swallowed. There was a file in the stack. I opened it. There was music. His fingers twitched as if remembering the pen. It was wrong. It needed something. It felt empty. I tried to fix it. My hand was there. It was simple. Park moved to the side of the stretcher, holding a small device that emitted a faint, rhythmic pulse of colored light. Harris's eyes flicked toward it briefly, then back. Do you still hear anything? She asked. Any sound, any rhythm in your head that does not stop when you want it to? He frowned, concentrating. He winced slightly. It is quieter now. Before it was loud. Now it is more like when you forget a song but remember that you forgot it. Park nodded. We can work with that. She held up a small card with a pattern printed on it. It looked like nonsense at first glance. She did not hold it long. Look at this, she said, just for a second. He did. His pupils adjusted. His brow smoothed a little. She took the card away. Now think about the music. He tried. He grimaced, then shook his head weakly. It is fuzzed. I cannot see the notes. That is the goal, she said. We will run you through a full counter-mimetic series at our facility if Arkham agrees to temporary transfer. Arkham, who had followed them, sighed through his nose. If you can scrub this thing out of their heads, you can borrow them. I want them back with their minds intact. Park nodded. We will aim for that. Batman watched her work, noting the methods. Printed counter patterns, light rhythms, calm, direct grounding questions. It was different from Scarecrow's fear gas antidotes and Joker toxin blockers. It was quieter and more precise. He looked at the Box 12 cube, being loaded onto a Foundation gurney with multiple straps. You will not keep that anywhere near Gotham again, he said. Park responded without turning. We will move it to a deeper, more secure site. Then we will tear apart our logs and figure out how it walked out in the first place. Batman's voice stayed hard. The same someone who moved 682, 96, 76, 914, 343's visits, 105, and now this. Yes, Park said. We are aware. Our directors are not sleeping much. Batman almost smiled faintly. Good. In the Gotham Foundation base, Apex watched the condensed report scroll up the screen. ARKHAM Incident, SCP-012. Joint Response, ETA-10, Memetics Division, Batman. Status, Object RECONTANED, 3 staff exposed, 1 fatal memetic contamination partially neutralized. He read it once, then looked back at the live feed from Arkham. Dr. Arkham argued quietly with Park in a hallway about follow-up visits. Batman moved through the lower wing, checking cells personally. ETA-10 scrubbed blood musical smears from walls under Park's direction. The cube containing 12 sat in the center of a containment dolly, steady and quiet. Apex rested his chin on one hand and smiled. They had handled it without losing control. They had not handled it easily. He enjoyed that balance. He stretched once in the chair, feeling the slow crack of joints from sitting too long, then settled again. His eyes moved to the global map. Central City glowed on one corner. Gotham, Metropolis, Themyscira, and the Watchtower each held their own tags. He felt the next ideas already forming. Chapter 24, Speed and Eggs. The Gotham Foundation command room was dim, lit mostly by screens and status lights. Operators sat at their stations in a rough semicircle, hands on keyboards, eyes moving between alerts and reports. Quiet conversations threaded through the low hum of ventilation and machinery. The air held the stale edge of too much coffee and not enough fresh air. On the front wall, the global map sat open, with threat tags marking familiar points. Gotham, Metropolis, Arkham, Site 57, the blurred zone for Themyscira, the Watchtower's orbit track. Central City glowed without tags, for now. Apex sat in his usual chair in the center row, posture relaxed, one arm resting along the armrest, fingers tapping a slow rhythm. His eyes moved across the screens in a steady pattern. One window showed Central City from high altitude. The streets here were cleaner than Gotham's, the grid tighter, the traffic lighter at this hour. Lights flowed along the main avenues. The river cut through the city in a broad curve. Bridges glittered with headlights. He watched it for a few seconds and smiled a little. "Your turn," he said quietly. No one around him heard the words clearly enough to process them. The nearest tech was busy dealing with a minor breach flag out of Europe and did not look back. Apex leaned back and reached inward. The familiar sensation arrived without any outward sign. Clear, ordered options lined up in his mind. He chose the same swarm he had used before. It worked. It pushed people. It stayed on the edge of catastrophic without automatically wiping a city. SCP selected. SCP-3199, humans refuted. Target area, Central City Urban Core, subsurface. He pictured the understructure beneath Central City's downtown. Service tunnels, sewer mains, maintenance hubs, the kind of spaces few people thought about unless something broke. He picked a storm drain junction under a busy commercial block and placed the first cluster there. Then he opened the second branch. Foundation units, rapid response. Selected, MTF New 7, Hammer Down, Urban Detachment. Selected, MTF Beta 7, Maz Hatters, Biohazard and Chemical Response. New 7 would bring armor and firepower. Beta 7 would bring neutralizers and protective protocols. Combined with flash and a lantern, it would be a fast, heavy response. He confirmed. On his screen, the Central City tag shifted from clear to yellow, then pulsed once as the first scanner pinged something wrong. He smiled and rested both hands calmly on the armrests. The pieces were in motion. Under Central City, water moved through concrete channels. The storm drain junction under the Midtown shopping district held pooled runoff, old trash, and the marks of regular maintenance. Steel ladders led up to street access points. Thick pipes ran along the walls. In the center of the junction, an egg sat in shallow water. It rested there, slick and pale, a little taller than a large dog, surface pulsing almost imperceptibly. No one had seen it arrive. It was simply there when the water rolled past. The air was cool and damp. Overhead, the muffled sounds of traffic and conversation filtered through. The egg trembled once, twice, then split down the center. A thin, pale arm shot out with a jerky motion. Fingers clawed at the concrete. The shell tore wider. A slick, hairless body slid out and collapsed on the floor. The creature pushed itself up slowly. Its limbs were too long, joints slightly off. Its head turned, dark eyes blinking open. It breathed in sharp gasps for a few seconds, then steadied. SCP-3199 planted its hands and feet on the floor and rose into a half-hunched stand. It sniffed the air. The city's scents were muddy down here: water, metal, traces of oil and chemicals. It shivered and stepped to one side of the chamber, its lower body pressed against the floor. A new wet shape began to swell beneath it. A few minutes later, a city maintenance worker walked along the nearby tunnel with a flashlight and a toolbox. He whistled under his breath, boots splashing through shallow puddles. His radio crackled occasionally as he checked in with the control center about a minor flow imbalance. "Yeah, I am at Junction 7, he said into the radio. "Probably just some gunk on the grates." He rounded the last bend and saw something pale at the edge of his light. He frowned and raised the beam. The egg cluster ahead gleamed wetly. One shell lay half-crushed and empty. Another one twitched. A third was forming against the wall. He stopped. "That is new," he muttered. His first thought was industrial waste. His second thought was that it did not look like anything that came out of a factory. He stepped closer, boots cautious. "Control," he said, voice tightening. "You might want to get environmental down here. I have got some kind of organic mess in Junction 7. Do not look standard clogged drain." The radio crackled. Organic like roots or organic like something else. He swallowed something else. He got close enough to see faint movement under the surface of the nearest egg. Something pressed against the shell from the inside. He took a step back. Okay, yeah, something is. The egg burst. A small, shrieking shape tumbled out and hit the water. It flailed, then latched onto the floor and pushed itself up, shaking its limbs free of shell. It turned its head toward him. Its eyes locked on his. He stared back, frozen. His instincts finally kicked in. He dropped the toolbox, turned, and ran. The creature skittered after him, legs slapping the wet concrete, gaining speed with each stride. He looked back once, saw it coming fast, and stumbled. He hit the wall. The flashlight flew from his hand and skidded away, beams spinning. The thing leaped. Its weight slammed into his leg, claws cutting through fabric. Pain shot up his thigh. He shouted in raw surprise and kicked out, hitting its torso. It flew back into the wall with a wet thud, then landed and skidded. It tried to stand again, body shuddering. He pushed himself up with his good leg and dragged himself toward the ladder. He grabbed the lower rung and began to climb, legs screaming. Below, the creature's body twitched twice more, then stilled. A pale puddle spread beneath it. In the water, new egg shapes began forming around the corpse. In Central City's CCPD crime lab, Barry Allen stood over a microscope, one hand holding a slide, the other balancing a donut. He squinted into the lens, then glanced at the clock. The evening shift was sliding toward night. For once, the city was not in immediate crisis. He took a bite of the donut, set it aside, and focused on the sample. Behind him, His phone buzzed once, twice, with a different pattern than usual. He frowned, straightened, and pulled it out. A secure alert from the watchtower glowed on the screen, flagged with Foundation tags. Central City anomaly, possible SCP swarm. Coordinates, downtown storm drain junctions. Foundation MTF New 7/Beta 7 en route. Request, flash response, EVAC containment support. Bari's eyebrows rose, his shoulders tensed slightly. He hit the internal CCPD line. Hey, Singh, he called toward the main work area. I might need to step out. From outside, Singh's voice came back. You just got in, Alan. Yeah, Bari said, already moving toward the door, shrugging into his coat. I know, but something just came up. League thing, I will be fast. You always say that, Singh muttered. Bari grinned, even though Singh could not see it. I have a good track record. He slipped into an empty corridor and blurred. A gust of air shivered through the hallway. Loose papers fluttered. The coat vanished from one spot and reappeared hanging on a peg. The Flash stood there instead, red suit gleaming under the fluorescent lights, cowl snug over his head. He tapped his comm. Watchtower, this is Flash. I got your ping. What am I running at? Jaeon's calm voice answered. Foundation sensors picked up 3199 class signatures under your downtown district. Early cluster, but growing. New 7 and Beta 7 are already airborne. Coldwell requests your assistance with evacuation and top-level containment. 3199, Bari said. Those are the egg things, right? Gotham and Metropolis got a taste. Yes, Jaeon said. They reproduce rapidly. They are dangerous in groups. Avoid direct contact. Bari nodded to himself. Got it. Tell them I will start clearing the area. He flicked open a comm channel to the local league line. Anyone else in the neighborhood? A familiar voice answered with practiced confidence. I was on approach anyway. You throw anything interesting, Central always ends up needing a light show. Bari smiled. Hal, you passing through or actually working today? Green Lantern's chuckle came through. I can multitask. I am 10 seconds out from your coordinates. Meet you over the river. Bari blurred again and left the building, red streak carving a line through the city. Above Central City, Hal Jordan flew in on a green trail. His construct shield cut the wind. His uniform sat under the emerald aura. He looked down as he flew, Ring feeding him a quick overlay of the grid below. Jaeon, he said over the leak channel. Confirm we are looking at 3199 again, not something brand new. Confirmed, Jaeon said. SCP-3199. You have Batman's field notes and the Foundation's top-level protocol in your HUD. Hal's ring flashed data in front of his eyes. He skimmed it quickly. Okay, he said. Fast lizards that hatch from eggs and turn into more if you kill them wrong. That sounds fun. Do not enjoy it, Jaeon said. Hal smirked. Too late. Below, a red blur shot up the side of a building and stopped beside him in midair, vibrating just enough to keep stable. Bari grinned under his mask. Nice of you to drop by. Hal looked sideways at him. You know I live for weird science problems and panicked civilians. What do we have? Bari pointed down. Main cluster is under that block. Foundation teams are on their way. We get people out of the blast radius before egg nightmares hit the sidewalks. Hal nodded. I will set up barriers. You sweep for stragglers. Try not to track anything back to your apartment. Hey, Bari said. That happened once. Once is too many, Hal replied. They moved. Hal soared over the streets, Ring generating a glowing construct loudspeaker and signage as he flew. Green lines formed in the air, marking boundaries. This is Green Lantern, his voice carried over the blocks. We have a temporary emergency in the downtown storm drains. We are creating a safety perimeter. Please move calmly along the indicated paths and follow local police directions. On the ground, Bari became a streak of color weaving through crowds. He stopped only long enough to tap a shoulder, point, and say, "This way, please," before being in motion again. People reacted as most Central City residents did to costumed instructions, with confusion, then quick compliance. CCPD cruisers swung into position at intersections, officers setting up barricades and redirecting traffic. In the Gotham Foundation base, Apex watched the Central City live feed with a small, satisfied look. Yellow zones spread over the map, marking evacuation corridors and blocked roads. A new set of tags appeared near the city edge. New 7's trucks rolled in on a highway exit, heavy wheels gripping the asphalt. Beta 7's smaller conv followed, sealed tanks mounted on the backs. Caldwell watched their deployment pattern on her own screen. New 7 will form a ring around the central block, she said into the command channel. Beta 7, you handle any surface fluid, residue, or compromised mains. Flash and Lantern will handle evac and fine control. Remember, 3199 bodies can produce eggs after death. Use full neutralizer after kinetic engagement. New 7's captain, Morales, answered, "Copy. Hammer down is in position. We are not letting these things cross more than 2 intersections." Beta 7's lead, a man with a steady voice named Cole, added, "Maz Hatter's ready. Sprayers primed. We will mop up whatever pops." Below the surface, the junction had changed. The first 3199's death had seeded multiple eggs. Those eggs had hatched quickly. Several small bodies now scrambled along the walls and ceiling, building new nests. A larger, more mature specimen moved more deliberately, pressing its lower body to the floor again and again. Eggs clung to concrete, to pipes, to any surface that would hold them. The maintenance worker had reached the street and been pulled away by emergency responders who had no idea what had bitten his leg. His blood smeared on the ladder rungs and the floor. One of the 3199 sniffed the air near the stain, then moved on, fixated on other inputs. The first of them reached a smaller side tunnel and followed it toward a grate that opened near a bus stop. It squeezed through the gap and pulled itself into the open air. People screamed. The creature stood in the center of the sidewalk, head flicking back and forth. It shrieked, sound sharp and high. 2 more hatchlings scrambled out after it. Bari reached them in less than a second. He stopped just outside smear range, boots skidding lightly, and took in the scene. 3 pale, long-limbed things, one already adjusting to upright movement, 2 still wobbling. Civilians backed away, some tripping, others pulling out phones. "Okay," Bari said, tone tight but still trying for calm. "That is uglier up close." Hal's green wall dropped over the street, sealing off the block from vehicle traffic. A translucent barrier rose behind the creatures, keeping them from bolting deeper into the city. Bari moved. He darted forward, red blur wrapping around each creature in turn, landing a precise blow to their heads, enough force to knock them down without using more weight than needed. They collapsed, their bodies twitched. Bari stepped back quickly, breathing a little faster. Yeah, do not step in the goo," he muttered. On the comm, Cole said, "Flash, do not get close to the bodies. We will coat them. If you kick them apart, you might just spread the content." "Noted," Bari said. Beta 7's sprayer truck rolled into the cordoned-off street. Techs in full protective gear hopped out, hoses in hand. They advanced on the downed 3199 and sprayed them with thick neutralizer foam. The foam hissed on contact, eating into the bodies. The creatures' remains sagged and dissolved, leaving a sticky residue that hardened slowly. One of the Beta 7 techs checked a handheld scanner. "No egg signatures forming," he reported. "Neutralizer working." Morale's voice came over the shared channel. "Public intersection 1 secure. Multiple contacts still under the primary block. Hammer down is setting entrance points." Hal hovered above, arms folded. "So far, this is less bad than a Sinstro core invasion," he said. "Still disgusting, though." Bari answered, "You can go hang out in space if you want. I will keep the street slime." "Not a chance," Hal said. "You owe me for that time in Coast City." "Later," Bari said. "We have more eggs to smash." Nu 7 and Beta 7 coordinated at the main access points. At one storm drain entry, Morale's armored troops formed a half-ring, rifles ready. Beta 7 teams set up neutralizer tanks and hose lines behind them. One agent dropped a sensor probe into the tunnel. The display lit up with multiple moving heat signatures. "Cluster 10 meters in," the operator said. "At least 6 large, maybe more smaller." Morales checked his map. "This is under the Mal Plaza. We keep it under there. No spill into the parking levels." He opened the joint channel. "Flash, Lantern. This is Hammer Down. We are at main access point Alpha. How fast can you do a sweep of adjacent drains and mark hotspots?" Bari's voice came back quickly. "Give me 1 second." He vanished in a red streak. He ran along the street grid, then down ramps into sublevels, then skimmed through the edge of the storm drains, keeping just outside the cluster radius. His mind mapped the routes as he moved. Every time he passed a tunnel with 3199 heat signatures, he dropped a small, vibrating tracer device from his belt, leaving a blinking marker for the Foundation teams and for Hal's ring. He finished the circuit and popped back up beside Morales in just under a second and a half. "Okay," he said, a bit breathless but still smiling. "You have primary cluster here, secondary branch under that alley, and a small offshoot near the subway vent. I tagged them with these little buzzing guys. Lantern can see them on his HUD. So can you, if you tie into his feed." Hal's construct interface glowed. "Got them. I can seal some of the upper vents with construct caps. You handle the rest with acid." Cole said, "We prefer the term neutralizer, but yes, that is the plan." Morales nodded. "All right. Hammer Down will take point in Access Alpha. Beta 7 sprays behind us. Flash, you run distraction if any get past us. Lantern, you block any upward paths and help direct movement." Bari rolled his shoulders once. "You do know I am best at distraction." Hal snorted. That was never in question. They dropped into the tunnel. Under the Mal, the storm drain was wider. The ceiling arched overhead. Pipes ran along the top and sides. Water pooled in low spots. Egg clusters sat on ledges, in corners, stuck to the underside of the pipes. Several had already hatched. Mid-sized 3199 moved along the walls, claws clicking softly. They heard the humans coming. The first 3199 turned its head toward the access tunnel and shrieked. The others answered in a rough chorus. Nu 7 advanced in a disciplined line. They moved with shields partially raised, rifles pointed forward. Their boots splashed in the thin water layer. Helmet lights carved cones through the dark. "Targets sighted," one called. "Multiple, front and upper right." "Fire in controlled bursts," Morale said. "Do not overkill. Beta 7 follow in." The front line opened fire. Rounds tore into the closest 3199. 2 went down immediately, bodies jerking. A third leaped onto a pipe and lunged toward the wall, trying to climb out of the line of fire. A green hand construct grabbed it out of the air. Hal had extended a projection down through the tunnel entrance. He clenched his ring fist, the construct hand squeezing the struggling creature, then slammed it back into the floor near the Beta 7 sprayers. Cole's voice carried through the channel. "Do not bring them up to the surface if you can help it. The runoff alone is ugly enough." "Understood," Hal said. Beta 7 moved in, hosing down the fallen bodies with neutralizer. Foam pooled around the forms and hissed. The smell thickened. Bari ran along the wall at safe speed, boots barely touching the surface. He grabbed unhatched eggs as he passed and threw them back toward the neutralizer zone, where Beta 7 caught and sprayed them before they could crack. One egg exploded just as he grabbed it, shell breaking in his hands. A half-formed 3199 shrieked and clawed at him. Bari flinched and dropped it back toward the foam. It landed in the neutralizer and began to dissolve. "Okay," he said, breathing harder. "That felt bad." "Watch for splashback," Cole said. "Your suit is not sealed for heavy biohazard." Bari checked his gloves. A few flecks of fluid clung there. "Great." "Get up here," Hal said. "I will give you a rinse." Bari zipped over to the tunnel mouth and stuck his hands through a green construct barrier. Hal conjured a controlled spray within the field, washing the worst off without letting it splatter. "You know," Bari said, "this is not how I imagined us spending a Thursday." "You wanted dinner?" Hal asked. "I wanted not egg monsters," Bari said, "but this is fine." Back in the tunnel, a larger 3199 emerged from behind a cluster of pipes. It was nearly full adult size, limbs longer, movements more confident. It shrieked and charged straight at the new 7 front line. 2 soldiers fired at once. Rounds slammed into its torso. It staggered but kept moving, claws digging into the floor. Morale stepped forward, braced, and fired a heavier shot from a mounted launcher. The impact hit the creature in the chest and carried an attached gel pack. The pack burst, covering the 3199 in neutralizer that clung and burned. It screamed and thrashed, then dropped. Egg lumps started to form around its body almost at once, white shapes rising in the foam. "More spray now," Morale said. Beta 7 doused the area. The forming eggs broke apart and melted. The tunnel shook slightly as something hit the wall from the other side. Bari's voice came over the channel. "Heads up. One of them tried to take the subway route. I knocked it back in. You have company from the left." New 7's left flank pivoted, guns tracking. Another 3199 poured out of a side pipe, emerging in a cascade of water. It slipped, then caught itself and ran along the wall. Hal's construct hardened into a net and dropped over it, pinning it in place. "Delivery," he said. "Received," Cole answered dryly. Neutralizer sprayed. The creature dissolved. They pushed forward slowly, clearing eggs and bodies, sealing side tunnels with foam and collapsible barriers. Every time a 3199 moved to escape toward an upper grate, Hal's ring caught it or blocked the route. Every time one tried to rush past the line, Bari cut in from the side, striking legs or redirecting bodies back into kill zones. Foundation teams did not complain about the Cape's presence this time. They moved around each other with a minimal set of words, letting actions carry the rest. Above, on the streets, CCPD officers maintained the outer cordon. Civilians watched from behind barricades, nervous but mostly out of danger. In the Gotham base, Apex watched the cluster icons shrink as each nest died. He tapped his fingers once against the armrest, then stopped, satisfied. An hour later, Central City's storm drains in the affected block were heavy with neutralizer foam and scorched residue. Beta 7 ran final scans for lingering 3199 signatures. New 7 held position until the monitors stayed flat. Cole's voice came over the channel. "Readings are clear. No heat signatures, no egg structure. Fluid traces are inert." Morales nodded where he stood, visor up now that the immediate threat had passed. His face looked tired, lines etched deeper. "Hammer Down will pull back to perimeter and monitor. We will leave a small unit on underground watch for the next 24 hours. On the street above, Bari leaned against a lamppost. Cowl pushed back halfway, sweat on his forehead. He took a slow drink from a water bottle, then lowered it and looked over at Hal. Hal floated a few feet above the ground, constructs dimmed down to a faint glow. He folded his arms and looked at the cordoned-off block. "Well," Hal said, "that was gross." Bari laughed once, tired but amused. "You guys have the weirdest files." Cole walked up, helmet under his arm. He looked at the 2 heroes and gave a small, respectful nod. "You were useful," he said. "Fast containment made this a lot less ugly." Bari grinned. "We try." Hal smirked. "He lives for compliments." Morales joined them. "We will file a joint report," he said. "If we have to do this again in your city, we will have better paths mapped." Bari nodded. "Central is used to me running through its plumbing. I can send you my usual routes." Cole looked at him. "You keep a map in your head." "Yeah," Bari said. "It is kind of my thing." Hal glanced toward the sky. Jayon says Metropolis is clear, Gotham is clear, and the Messira is being stubborn but stable. We are keeping up. Bari's shoulders eased slightly. For now. In the Gotham base, Apex watched the Central City tag switch from active to contained, then to monitoring. He leaned back in his chair, letting a small, satisfied smile sit on his face. They handled speed well. Foundation teams had adjusted their timing, trusting Flash's markers and Lantern's barriers. Heroes trusted neutralizer foam and containment protocols. He liked seeing that. It meant he could keep increasing complexity without breaking everything too early. He stretched one hand, fingers crackling softly, then let it fall back to the armrest. His eyes went to Gotham's tag again. He began to think about shadows and deals. Chapter 25, Foxfire, Rust, and Steel. The Gotham Foundation command room felt steady and tired. Most of the big alarms were quiet. Screens showed containment statuses across the globe. Operators spoke softly as they cycled through standard checks. The air was cool, the light low, the hum of machines constant. Apex sat in his usual chair near the main display wall, back relaxed against the seat, one hand curled loosely over the armrest. His eyes moved from Gotham to Metropolis to the Watchtower and back again. Central City's tag had shifted to monitoring. The 3199 event was logged, wrapped, and filed for deeper analysis. He felt good, calm, curious. 3 major spheres glowed in his view. Gotham, Metropolis, the Watchtower. "Let us see what you do when everything hits at once," he said quietly, a hint of amusement in his voice. A junior tech a few stations away glanced back, then pretended he had not heard anything. Apex reached for that internal space where his options sat, familiar and clear. No one saw anything change in him. From the outside, he looked like a man thinking about reports. Inside, he made choices. First, Gotham. He wanted something that could move through crowds and talk. A predator that liked deals, tricks, human games. Something that fit the city's shadows. SCP selected. SCP-953, Polymorphic Humanoid/Kitsune. Target Zone, Gotham Docks District/Smuggling Routes. He accepted. He added the counterweight. Foundation Unit, Covert Field Cell, Designation Kappa 9, with MTF Psi-8, the silencers on standby. He confirmed. Second, Metropolis. He wanted something slow and horrible, different from the fast 3199. Something that spread if they were careless. SCP selected. SCP-610, the Flesh That Hates, Controlled Patch. Target Zone, Metropolis, Outer Industrial Sector, Abandoned Factory. He accepted that too. He pulled the appropriate answer. Foundation Unit, MTF Mu-4 Debuggers plus MTF Beta-7 Maz Hatters, Biohazard Joint Operation. He confirmed. Third, the Watchtower. He did not want a plague this time. He wanted a dangerous object that made people nervous just by existing on the station. Something small enough to study, scary enough to argue about. SCP selected. SCP-668, 13-inch chef's knife. Target Zone, Watchtower Science Lab B3. He confirmed. Then he settled back, hands still, eyes calm. The world shifted in 3 places at once. Gotham's docks lay under a low, dirty sky. The harbor water slapped against rotting pilings. Rusted cranes loomed over stacked containers. Sodium lamps cast patchy light along the loading lanes, leaving plenty of darkness between. In one of the older warehouses, A group of men gathered around a table covered in cash, weapons, and ledgers. They wore rough coats and heavy boots. The emblem on a few jackets marked them as part of the Penguin's extended network. Smuggling accounted books sat open. One man with a thick neck and shaved head counted bills. Another checked a crate's contents, pulling back the lid to reveal rifles under a thin layer of packing material. A side door creaked. A woman stepped inside. She did not look like she belonged here. She wore a plain dark coat over a simple dress, hair black and straight, falling past her shoulders. Her face was pretty in a neat, forgettable way, the kind men dismissed as harmless. Her eyes, though, were bright and attentive. She smiled as she walked closer. The nearest thug turned, hand going to his gun. "This area is closed," he said. "Beat it." She tilted her head slightly. "You are terribly rude." Her voice carried a lilting edge. It was soft but clear. The thug frowned. "You deaf?" I said. She moved. For a moment her outline blurred. Ears flashed above her hair, sharp and pointed. A bushy tail flicked behind her, then disappeared again as she stepped into his space. He barely had time to register the change. Her hand cut across his throat in a quick, precise motion. He staggered back, eyes wide, hands clutching at the wound. Blood spilled onto the dirty floor. The other men shouted, scrambling for guns. She laughed, light and pleased. "Now you are quiet," she said. Her body shifted again. For a split second, her face stretched, muzzle lengthening, teeth sharpening into a fox's grin. Then it snapped back to human lines. Dark red fur rippled under the illusion and vanished. SCP-953 liked this city already. She stepped back from the dying man and looked at the others. "I am new here," she said cheerfully. "I would like to meet the one who thinks he owns these docks." One of the smugglers raised his weapon and fired. The bullet went through where her head had been. Her shape melted aside with unnatural speed and precision. She appeared beside him, hand closing around his wrist. Bones cracked. The gun fell. She took his knife with her other hand and drove it into his stomach in one smooth push. He gasped, eyes wide with pain and shock. "I will ask again," she said calmly, her expression still pleasant. "Who do these warehouses belong to tonight?" A third man swallowed, sweat starting on his forehead. "The Penguin," he said. "Oswald Cobblepot. He runs this stretch. We just work." Her smile widened. "Good, I like birds." She twisted the knife. He dropped. The last two tried to run. She let one make it to the door before she leaped, claws out, and brought him down in a tangle of limbs and fur. The screaming did not last long. When she was done, the warehouse was quiet again, except for the water outside and the small sounds of cooling metal. She wiped her hands on a nearby coat, then walked to the table. She picked up a stack of cash and flipped through it idly, humming under her breath. Then she picked up a ledger and began to read. "Gotham," she murmured. "Penguins, bats, clowns, masks. Interesting place." Her tail flickered into view again, invisible to cameras tuned to the wrong spectrum, then faded. She started to plan. On the outskirts of Gotham, a van rolled slowly through the industrial fringe. It looked like any other service vehicle. Plain paint, small logo, minor dents. Inside, it held 4 people and more equipment than most homes. Kappa 9, Foundation Covert Cell. The driver, a man named Miller, watched the road with calm, bored eyes. He looked like a mid-level contractor. Next to him sat Rhea, the field lead, her hair tied back, expression focused. In the back, 2 operatives checked gear. Concealed trank guns, small info hazard projectors, personal defensive tools that looked like junk until activated. A soft chime sounded from Rhea's tablet. She glanced down. SCP-953 level signature just lit up in Warehouse Zone C12, she said quietly. High violence markers. That is new for Gotham. Miller's hands tightened slightly on the wheel. The fox. Yeah, Rhea said. They dropped it here. She did not sound surprised, just annoyed. Psi-8 is on standby, she added. If this goes loud, they will come in from the river. Miller grunted. If it starts tearing through Cobblepot's people, it will go loud fast. The bat will be on it too. Good, Rhea said. We do not have to like him to use him. She tapped the secure line. Foundation Gotham Base. This is Kappa 9, confirming 953 activity in Dock Warehouse C12. We are moving in to observe and prep. Recommend notifying Batman. If this entity gets into the wider underworld, we will have a hard time containing the damage quietly. Caldwell's voice answered from the Gotham base, calm and clipped. Acknowledged, Kappa 9. Psi-8 is mobilizing. I will flag the League channel and send a direct to Batman's secure line. Rhea put the tablet away and looked out at the dark shapes of warehouse roofs. All right, she said, voice steady. Let us go make sure our fox does not make too many friends. Batman was already moving when Caldwell's call came through. He stood on a rooftop overlooking the Narrows when his gauntlet buzzed. He tapped the secure line. Batman, Caldwell said. We have SCP-953 activity at the docks. Polymorphic entity, high intelligence, predatory behavior. It has already killed 4 of Cobblepot's men. Batman's eyes narrowed behind the cowl. Capabilities. Kitsune-type shapeshifter, Caldwell said. Multiple forms, human and fox. Illusion capabilities documented. History of sadistic behavior and psychological games. It likes to manipulate before it kills. It can pass for human easily. Any weaknesses? Batman asked. It is not invulnerable, she said. It bleeds. It can be tranquilized, restrained, and killed, but it is fast, cunning, and enjoys bait. We prefer to keep it contained, not dead, but we will accept neutralization if there is no other option. He listened without changing expression. Inside, he felt a familiar hardening of focus. Another monster in his city. Your people are on site, he asked. Kappa 9 is nearby in covert mode, she said. Psi-8, the silencers, are moving in from the river. We will approach quietly. We will not block you. He nodded once. Send me everything you have on 953. Transmitting now, she said. His HUD populated with brief, sharp bullet points. He read them in less than 5 seconds. They were ugly. He adjusted his mental plans without hesitation. I am en route, he said. He fired his grapnel and swung toward the docks. Metropolis sat under a different sky. The industrial zone along the South River glowed with fewer lights than downtown. Factories, power substations, and old refineries lined the streets. Some were active, some abandoned. Inside one of the older facilities, a disused petrochemical plant, a night watchman made his rounds. He walked along the catwalk, flashlight beam cutting across rusted drums and old machinery. His footsteps echoed against the metal grating. He walked past a side door marked storage. The smell hit him first. Rotten, wet, wrong. He stopped, frowned, and swung his light toward the door. The beam picked out something on the floor just inside. A red mass clung to the concrete, spreading slowly along the seam where wall met floor. It pulsed faintly. He stepped closer without thinking. The flesh patch twitched. He recoiled, stomach twisting. What the hell? He whispered. He reached for his radio. Control, this is Johnson. I have got a serious leak or something in the old East storage room. You might want to call environmental and a priest. He tried to laugh at his own line. It came out thin. The patch grew as he watched, inch by inch, sending thin tendrils along the floor toward a nearby metal drum. When it touched, the drum's paint bubbled and flaked. He took another step back. Okay, no, I'm not paid enough for this, he said. He turned to leave, boots scraping. Behind him, the flesh surged. The Foundation caught it within minutes. Sensors calibrated to 610's unique biological signature, lit up at the Gotham base and at a main monitoring hub. In the Gotham base, one of Coldwell's operators called out, "Director, we have a 610 level anomaly in Metropolis, industrial sector. Caustic flesh mass, small but growing. Location, decommissioned petrochemical plant." Coldwell moved to his station, eyes sharp. "Confirm it is not bleed-through from Crime Alley." He shook his head. "Different coordinates, different pattern. This is a new patch." She did not waste time swearing. "Mu-4 and Beta-7 again," she said. "They are already practiced. Alert the watchtower. This is Metropolis backyard. Superman will want to be there." She opened the Secure League channel. "Metropolis anomaly," she said when Jayon picked up. 610. "We have a growing flesh patch in an old chemical facility. We are sending Mu-4 and Beta-7. We recommend Superman and Steel coordinate." Jayon's voice stayed calm. "Understood. I will alert them." In Metropolis, Clark heard the ping even before Jayon spoke in his ear. "Another one," Clark said quietly, standing on a Daily Planet rooftop in his civilian clothes, tie loosened. "Yes," Jayon said. "This time 610, flesh growth, Foundation teams en route." Clark's jaw tightened. He took off his glasses and folded them carefully. "I am on my way." He stepped back from the edge, then ran forward and leaped. The suit replaced the shirt and tie in a blur of motion, cape snapping behind him as he flew toward the industrial district. In orbit, the watchtower ran smoothly. The main operations hub hummed. Jayon stood at the central console, overseeing both the Gotham Docks feed and the Metropolis industrial feed. Batman's marker moved over the docks. Superman's marker arrowed toward the flesh patch. In another part of the station, Lab B3 sat quiet. The lab was one of the smaller science rooms. Benches lined the walls, covered in carefully labeled equipment. Sample storage units hummed along one side. A reinforced table in the center held a handful of secure cases, each marked with a different symbol. Cyborg stood at the main console, one hand interfaced with the system, the other tapping a stylus against a tablet. He wore a half-focused expression, attention split between a nanotech simulation and a sensor calibration routine. The lab door slid open. Bruce stepped in, cowl off but suit still on. He carried a small drive between two fingers. "I have 12's post-event data," he said. "Thought you would want it integrated into the hazard filters." Cyborg looked up, smiled faintly. "You know I love a good cursed music file." Bruce set the drive down. "Park says her countermimetics worked. We should fold them into our own protocols." "Already on it," Cyborg said. "I am building a filter tree that flags anything with those patterns before it hits main view." As they spoke, one of the secure storage slots chirped softly. Cyborg's HUD flashed a small warning. "Ha!" Bruce turned his head. "What?" "One of our empty case slots just registered new mass," Cyborg said. "No teleport log, no materialization sensor trip. It is just full now." Bruce's expression flattened. "Which slot?" Cyborg turned to look. The third case from the left on the central table now held something that had not been there a moment before. A plain, well-made chef's knife lay inside, 13 inches long, gleaming under the lab's light. The blade was clean. The handle was dark. It looked simple. A yellowed tag lay beside it, pressed under the clear lid. 3 numbers printed in black ink stood out, 668. Bruce's jaw set. SCP-668. Cyborg looked at him. "You know this one too?" "Yes," Bruce said. "Knife. Vicious causal effect around its use. People who wield it tend to rack up improbable kill chains. Events line up to make every swing fatal." Cyborg's face shifted to something more serious. "So a knife that turns you into a walking disaster. Great." He tapped the console. "Jayon, we may have another guest in Lab B3. Jayon's voice came from the ceiling speakers. "I see the update. Foundation codes tag that object as SCP-668. I will inform them. Bruce stared at the case. Do not open that lid. I am not stupid, Cyborg said. I know, Bruce replied. His tone did not change, but there was a small respect in it. Down below, things moved faster. At Gotham's docks, Batman perched on a crane arm overlooking warehouse C-12. His cape hung still. Night wind touched the edge lightly. He watched as men moved cautiously along the alleys below, checking in with radios, discovering bodies. Gordon's call had come earlier. 4 of Cobblepot's people dead in a warehouse, Gordon said. No gunfight, no explosives, they just died badly. This smells like your new Black Ops friends or one of your files. Batman had told him simply, it is neither, it is something else. Stay clear until I have eyes on it. Now he watched as 2 of Penguin's lieutenants argued near a truck. She is a freak, one hissed. Just walked in here and tore through the boys like they were paper. We do not run from one girl, the other snapped. Boss will have our heads if we lose this storage. Boss is not here, the first said. She is. You did not see her change. A shadow moved in the doorway behind them. They did not notice. She stepped out slowly, hands tucked into the pockets of her coat. Her hair was still black, but her eyes now held a golden sheen. I do enjoy being talked about, she said lightly. They spun, guns half raised, fingers shaking. Stay back, one stammered. We are armed. She smiled. So am I. She took one step forward. Up on the crane, Batman's gauntlet buzzed with a short signal. Kappa 9 had sent a tight beam message to his secured receiver. Text only, 953 confirmed. Request NON lethal coordination if possible. Aversion to Silver docked. Will accept termination if necessary. Batman's eyes narrowed. He adjusted his grapnel and fired. He dropped between the kitsune and the men, cape flaring out and then settling around him as he landed in a crouch. The guns flew from their hands in the same motion. He had swatted them aside before their fingers finished tightening. The men staggered back, faces pale. 953's smile widened. Ah, she said, the bat. Her eyes took him in quickly. She looked amused, not surprised. I was wondering when you would show up, she said. Batman straightened slowly. You are not staying. She laughed softly. Everyone tells me that. Very few make it stick. He did not respond with words. He moved. She dodged, fast and fluid. Her body blurred between shapes, half human, half animal, fully dangerous. She slipped under his first strike, over his second, and tried to rake claws across his chest where she knew armor joined. Her hand met something harder than she expected. Electric charge flared along his suit. Her muscles spasmed for half a second. She hissed and sprang back, eyes flashing with annoyance. You are prepared, she said. I read your file, Batman replied. Up the block, Kappa 9 watched from a van with lights off. Rhea held binoculars, her jaw tight. He is playing with a fox. Miller said, Psi 8 is 2 minutes out. If he pens her in, we can hit her with the nets. Assuming she does not decide to carve a path through Cobblepot's men and a couple of cops first, Rhea said. She keyed her mic. Psi 8, this is Kappa 9. Target engaged with Bat. We will hold until you are in position. On the cranes and rooftops, more silent figures shifted. Gotham at night had many eyes. In Metropolis, Superman hovered over the petrochemical plant, cape moving gently in the air. From above, he could see the pattern. The 610 patch had started as a small stain. Now it covered half the floor in one wing of the facility. Flesh matter climbed walls, wrapped around support pillars, and encroached on nearby machinery. It pulsed slowly, sending shudders through attached surfaces. Mu 4 stood at a safe distance at the main entrance, sealed suits in place, sprayers ready. Beta 7 had set up decontamination tents and neutralizer supply lines. Clark landed beside Mu 4's lead, a woman named Kea. He nodded once. How bad? Early, but not early enough, she said. It has covered about 30 square meters. Rate of growth is accelerating. We have a live host somewhere inside. Some of that mass is moving with human structure. Anyone else in the building? He asked. Plant was mostly empty, she said. Night watchman is unaccounted for. That is probably our primary host. We cannot be sure no one else wandered in since the first spread started. He did not like hearing that, but he appreciated the honesty. We cannot let it reach the exterior, he said. We know, Kea replied. We will spray, burn, and seal. You can help by collapsing any exit points it does not reach yet. Steele landed on the roof nearby, suit gleaming faintly. He walked to the edge and looked down. I can reinforce the outer walls while you clear the inside, he said. That way, if you have to collapse anything, it comes down clean. Kea nodded. You two are good structural insurance. We focus on the flesh. He felt a small flicker of grim amusement at her plain tone. That is one way to phrase it. He stepped toward the main doorway. I will go in first, he said. You follow behind with the neutralizer. Call out if you see anything my eyes miss. Kea checked her sprayer. We will. He entered the building. The air inside was thick with a sour, organic smell. The normal sense of oil and metal sat under it. His boots stuck slightly where the flesh had spread across the floor. He walked carefully, not because he feared tripping, but because every step mattered. Too much force might send splatter somewhere he did not want it. In the Gotham base, Apex watched the Metropolis feed with a calm expression. On another screen, the Watchtower's Lab B3 camera showed Bruce and Cyborg standing at a safe distance from the SCP-668 case. Both looked tense but controlled. He watched all 3 points, attention shifting smoothly. He did not feel overwhelmed. He felt engaged. This was the kind of night he enjoyed.